and this is The Breakdown. Today we have a panel of atheists. We're going to find out their views and what they think. And we're going to go ahead and get started with our first guest, and his name is Michael Miller. Tell us about yourself, Michael Miller, and any accolades or whatever it is that you would like for us to know about you.
Yes, how you doing? My name is Michael Miller. I am an agnostic atheist. Um, for me, I was raised Baptist in the church. I pretty much was just going along with the flow, what my dad had introduced me with, and I really didn't challenge much, just went along with the cultural um, piece there. And the more I began to just learn more and more, I just withdrew from it. I'm not saying it's false. I don't know, but I couldn't no longer hold that belief myself. So I'm kind of open minded. I'm that's why I'm an agnostic atheist, as I do not know that there is no God. I just lack belief in a God. But as far as me, I have a degree in organizational leadership. I'm heavy into language philosophy, so various avenues there, and I kind of root myself in logic.
Well, that makes sense. I understand now because I was wondering how could you be agnostic and atheist? So you just explained it. Thank you for that. And we also have okay. So let's go ahead to our first question, and that is, what is an atheist?
Yeah, simplistically, people can define it however they want, but it ultimately addresses one question, and that is belief in God. Um, so for me, atheist is just a person who lacks belief. Now, there are various, whoever, there are people who say there is no God. They fall under that umbrella of lacking belief. There's people who say they don't know if there's a God. They fall under that umbrella of lacking belief. So that's just what an atheist is simplistically.
Okay, that is putting it simply. And what types of atheists are there? Because you're an agnostic atheist. What other types are there?
Various titles, but to me, to keep it simple, they fall under two groups um, in the language that I'm using: agnostic atheist or agnostic atheist. And that's, some people will say, a strong or a weak atheist. Whatever term you want to put there, it falls under one camp. I lack the belief in God, and I don't know if this lack of belief is true, or if there's no God, or I lack the belief in God and I know there's no God. Those are the two type, depending on the language you use. That it's one of those two camps.
Okay. Well, that's simply put also. Thank you. So, how do people react to you when they find out that you're an agnostic atheist?
Um, some people are they treat me the same because I treat them. Underlying some of these beliefs, depending on the type of person you are. A lot of people don't even mind that. Some people try to witness to me, or tell me their beliefs, because I engage them with that. I never try to prove people wrong in that regard. I just try to see what their belief is and the reasoning behind it, so I can learn, and I'm open minded to even adopt that. But it just has to make sense for me. And other people, they come from more of a negative approach, like I'm intentionally deceiving, or myself, or I'm lying, or um, somehow whatever it is that I'm using is designed to prevent myself from believing in a God. And I've never understood that approach, because I've always said that if there is a God, I win nothing by trying to lie and deceive. And so it has to be, for me, I don't see no victory there in the God that people, a lot of people ascribe to in this area anyway, the all knowing and all, wise deal. I can't deceive that. So it serves me no purpose. So I'm an honest interlocutor, meaning just I'm here to engage honestly. I'm not trying to lie or deceive.
Okay. Well, that would make sense to do that. I see your point of view on that. Now, there's a lot of different beliefs. There are so many, you probably can't count them all. So they meet together on certain days. Do atheists do the same thing? Do you have a meeting with other atheists?
There are atheist groups, but atheism is really just like I say, the addressing of that one question. I can't say that there's like there are various, atheist groups that just really are about support and letting people know that there are other people out there that think like you, or that have that mindset and that seek information together. I follow many of those groups. I'm not a part of any particular atheist group per se, but I also don't shy away from telling people if they ask. Yeah.
Okay. So, how does being an atheist help you to connect with your fellow man?
Um, I'm not sure that atheism in itself helps me connect with my fellow man per se, but to flip that, I have seen other strong beliefs prevent people from connecting, whether it be, people can corrupt any belief system. So I'm not saying Christianity is bad per se, but people have used that to do bad things and turn um, to some justification to do wrong to man. The same as they've done good. Like I say, I'm not broad brushing here. Same thing has been done for Islam or whatever it may be. There's all kind of belief systems out there. Atheism itself, I mean, people there's mean atheists online. You can get, see people and they'll be negative, but that goes beyond really atheism or theism to me. That's how you apply it. So
Okay. So, religion is a culture, and it's a tool that they create rituals with, like Christmas and different holidays. So, what culture do you create for your children as, being an atheist, agnostic atheist, excuse me?
mhm. um, I can't really say I'm creating a culture per se, except of acceptance and understanding, and to seek um, more information. I People critically think of all faiths, so I'm not implying that they don't. But for me, I just try to. I have children who are Christian. I don't influence them in any way. I want them to follow whatever belief that they want, as long as they ain't harming anybody. That's the key for me. So I'm just open minded. I don't impose that on anyone. I do discuss my beliefs with them, and I never, ever, ever tell them that they're wrong. I just challenge them to think. And so that's what it does for me. Culturally, I celebrate Christmas, but it's not religious based. It's just you buy gifts for your loved ones and we exchange them on Christmas Day and we just show love and spend time together. There's a lot of history there that something could be rooted in something, but it doesn't necessarily mean that because you celebrate it, you support that or follow it. It's just colloquial celebration for me. So
That was my next question. So, I'll move on to the next question. What's the most difficult part of being an atheist?
um, probably being surrounded by symbolism and language that doesn't favor atheism. For people in it, they may not realize it, but when you got language like under God, or you deal with the Pledge of Allegiance, or you deal with money and God we trust. Those kind of things um, really don't support me in a sense. In my belief, they support the exact opposite. So it kind of makes you feel a little ostracized in that regard. But you just have to be strong in knowing that as long as I'm safe and I'm not being persecuted, I'm good. I don't really mind that. But it's all around us. It's all around us. It's like if you were a Christian in Egypt or Saudi Arabia, you'd be surrounded by things that were against you to an extent. And it's not quite as bad here because there's some level of freedom, but it's definitely not as much as I would like.
So, when you're in a public place and they do the Pledge of Allegiance or something similar to that, what do you do?
I just
Do you
I
do
just
like you celebrate Christmas? Do you just go along with it, or what do you do?
No, I don't participate in anything that I don't believe in per se, as far as what I put meaning to it. Now, I'm a former Marine, so I definitely respect troops and support their fight, because even no matter political agendas or or right or wrong wars, the troops themselves, I support them. But for example, I haven't stood for the anthem in years. This goes back years. I just sit there respectfully. I'm quiet. When it comes to Pledge Allegiance, I didn't do it when I was younger. I sat there and I minded my own business and I let people, do their own thing. The only thing that ever bothered me was when people try to force you to do it. Or,
I have a question.
uh-huh.
So, do you think atheists have a representation, like other aspects of America, like church and um, sexuality, different things like that? You think atheism gets a fair shake in that?
Does atheism get a fair shake in that? Um, there is a lot of hate towards atheists. I mean, there's a lot of that towards anybody, but when you're the majority and you're getting some hate, you feel a lot more insulated with people that hold that belief with you. When you're the minority, as you would be in America, being an atheist, and you get that hate, uh, it's just tough. Um, do
when
we
I
have?
talk to people, when I talk to people, when I mention someone as an atheist, I get this like I'm in a group with them because I'm not atheist. So because I'm talking about an atheist, we're automatically against atheists. And I don't actually hold that belief, but like when you're in a group with someone, you're in the in crowd. So people tend to let off a little bit biasness in conversation. And I really don't feel comfortable myself, so I actually go in and I represent and I say, hey, I've got a lot of friends that are atheists and they're all upstanding people. I've never had an issue with them. They seem like, really nice people, give their shirt off their back. But the reputation that atheists have simply for not believing in God is like, heathenistic or evil or, you know.
I mean, I think it goes down to, I'm just going to address, like, say, Christianity, for example. This never a broad brush, so understand that. I don't mean to offend anyone, but a lot of times that foundational belief is saying, if you don't hold this belief, then it's negative, right? So then that filters through that biasness. You're turning your back on God, you're deceiving, you're of all those evil attributes, and in the end, I ain't gonna sugarcoat it. A lot of them hold the belief that we'll be in hell, right, or whatever version they want to go to. So when you have all these main staples in the back of your mind, when you hear that word, this person is openly saying that they don't hold a belief that God exists. Or some people are a lot stronger with the language. I say there's no God exists is what somebody could say, and they hear that it's a rejection of who they are. So yeah, they just treat them negatively, and it's the same thing with anything else. What you fear, what you either don't understand or that goes against you, or something along that lines. It's a lot of silliness goes on. I personally don't. I think that's why I'm open to engaging a lot of people, because there's nothing in my background that says if you believe in God, this negative outcome is going to happen. I don't hold that foundation for me isn't the case. And because I'm an agnostic who doesn't hold it 100% true that there is no God, I'm open-minded to that. I also don't think people believe in God are deceived or lying to themselves or dumb or they don't critically think. I hold none of that. But you will see people who are atheists, and they'll hear a theist, whatever the title may be, Christian, Muslim, whatever it is, and they'll immediately be negative, just like the theist would be, because they're like, ah, man, this person's ignorant, they don't understand, they're sheep, or whatever it may be. I've heard it all. And that kind of stuff goes both directions. It's simply there are more um, theists in the world than there are, I mean, in polls anyway. You never know, but there are more theists than atheists, so you feel it a little bit more one-sided there.
So let's what does theist mean? What is a theist?
The, there's a lot of there's a lot that falls under that umbrella, but ultimately it's something that holds a belief in a god or gods or some type of higher. Doesn't have to be a god per se, just a higher existence or a plane, whatever it may be. But all of that falls under that umbrella of theist to me. And like I said, it's more complicated, but that's keeping it basic.
So basically, all the different religions will fall under the umbrella of a theist. So it doesn't matter if it's Muslim, Israelite, Christian, because they believe in one form of God or another, then they're technically a theist. And basically, what you're saying is that as an atheist, with the A in front, it's almost in opposition to all the other concepts. If it's not directly in opposition, it's not in alignment with all the other concepts, no matter what religion it is.
Well, I'm an agnostic atheist for things that I'm aware of and know and have studied. I can't be an agnostic, you know what I mean? So like, there are certain things, I just say agnostic atheist for the main majority of the things. There's some things I'm just a straight atheist to. You know, I don't hold, you know, certain God's belief because some of them are contradictory. They don't make sense, right? So that part, I'm just straight atheist. I know that God doesn't either exist or just because it's logically unsound. But then you come into play where something ain't necessarily logically unsound, but there's a lot of misinformation. So yeah, if I'm not aware of it, then I definitely can't hold a belief in it, right? So therefore, I'm by default, I lack the belief in it, but I can't say that I'm agnostic atheist in that because I don't know, right? So that's why I put that label first for the majority of God claims here.
So what are some of the things that you just don't believe in when it comes to God, or you're just speaking about it?
Mm-hmm. Well, some claims are, you'll see there's all kind of people out here. You'll see people who say, I mean, they'll attribute that they define God differently, right? So they'll say that trees are God or nature is God. Well, I don't have to call this a God or such. I call it nature. I call it trees. And until you elevate that definition to separate it from this concept, then it's all about the definition, right? Some people define God in so many different ways. Like I subscribe to atheist talk shows and they get hundreds of callers, you know, and I've listened to hundreds of shows and so many different various beliefs out there. So it's hard to pinpoint it, but it just depends. It usually comes down to that definition. I mean, it's like somebody saying that they're God, you know. Well, depending on what you back that up with, it may be such mundane of a claim that I don't really need to consider you like a God in that way, right? You know, and so it's just like, oh, great, you're just a person, you know what I mean? So I don't know, it's kind of funny. But if they back it up with some sense and I'm like open-minded about it, I'll learn more and more. And I'll be like, okay, now I understand what you mean by that. And I'm eager to learn. You know, I'm just like, say, I'm a sponge when it comes to that. So.
Okay. So where did the universe come from? Because it's widely known thing. Well, people believe that, you know, there's a God that created everything. But being an agnostic atheist, where do you believe? How did the universe get here?
Well, I'm unclear if the universe really ever came into existence versus it always existing. So that's something that I don't hold one way or the other. It's an unanswered thing for me. There are, you know, scientific models that point toward a beginning. There's others that don't point toward a beginning. So none of them have been proven to be true. They're all just theories at this point. So, and data backs up all of them in various degrees. So for me, I don't even know if the question, how did the universe get here, makes sense to me, if it's always existed. So I put that in perspective when sometimes people don't get that. It's like saying, well, how did God get here? But to a theist, usually a typical theist will be like, well, God didn't get here. It's always been, right? So that question doesn't even make sense. Where did God come from? Well, God's always been, right? So I don't know if that applies to the universe.
Okay. So how did life come about?
As far as life coming about, that's abiogenesis scientifically. That's an unsolved deal in science there. There are theories and I put that the same as like the beginning of the universe, if that makes sense. It's just unsolved. But abiogenesis, I don't have an answer for that. It'd be easy for me to say, God, this all encompassing thing answers all these unknown questions for me, and then that would be boom done. But that's like, I could almost say that for anything unknown, and it'd be fine. But until you know what I mean. So I don't really know what the solution is for abiogenesis. But once life got here, there is strong evidence for evolutionary theory. Also don't know if it's true, but there's a lot of data that backs that part up. So I can see that, but how it started, unclear.
You know what? Something interesting that I was looking into a few years ago. Scientists were trying to recreate the primordial elements to see if they can get life to come from it. And after a while, they actually found the main ingredients that produce life. They were actually able to create life from chemicals in a test tube. And they were the concept is basically that as the earth evolved or cooled off, certain chemical elements came into play, interacted with each other, and created the first proteins, which then developed into the first single cell organisms. And then the process of evolution took place. Now, that's actually the theory that I subscribe to.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. And there's some strong information there. The biggest deal is just when you're talking about historical, things, it's a matter of you saying in science, that's why science didn't really hold absolutes when it comes to those type of things. It's more like saying, this is possible based on this set of information. And what what you subscribe to, I don't refute in that way, because if that is the way that it happened, it makes sense, right? So science definitely has a potential answer for that. How they prove that that's actually how it happened, science probably won't even. I don't know. I mean, that science doesn't even get into that. To be honest with you, they give you this best model, say plug in this data, are the predictions playing themselves out? And what you're talking about, that form of abiogenesis theory, there's some strong evidence there. There's some strong evidence.
Well, you don't believe in God. People say he's up there and everywhere. So, do you believe that there are aliens?
I don't hold the belief that there are aliens. I think that it would be. I do hold a belief, probably, that alien life is likely based on what I see, but I don't hold a belief that there are aliens because I don't have evidence of that. But I don't see anything unique per se about Earth. What I see is a limitation on us to be able to go out there and figure it out. But yeah, I don't see why there couldn't be aliens. No, the same way I don't see why there couldn't be a God. You know, that's why I'm open minded to it. I just don't have evidence for it.
I see. Do you believe that technical information can be passed down through genetics?
Probably would depend on definitions. Um, Information's about perspective when you look at it through a philosophical lens. So, um, depending on what you mean, sure, I could see something being called information passed down through genetics, but um, yeah, I don't know. You'd have to get a little bit more technical in that, but I can see it one way and I can see it not another. It just depends on what we define information as and such.
Okay, so not believing in God, then the belief that goes along with that is that there's a heaven and there's the other place. So what happens when an agnostic atheist dies? What happens?
I have no clue. I don't know anybody who has um, died, come back, and us be able to verify the information that they tell us. So yeah, it's unknown to me what would happen. And I think, I mean, it'd be nice, it comforts me to say, oh, if I just do this simple formula, I'm gonna spend eternity into this, in this very nice place, and it's also it's very discomforting to me to say if you don't do this simple thing that you're going to spend eternity elsewhere. To me, that kind of paradox makes kind of no sense to me. But I'm not saying it's not true. It seems very odd if I was the creator to even create something like that. But again, I'm limited. I'm not saying it. I could see where somebody could do it, but it wouldn't make sense to me.
Okay, I see. And I want to introduce another guest that we have here. This is Tehuti Forever. And would you go ahead and tell us something about yourself?
Yeah, I'm Tehuti Forever. I'm the author of Quantum. Oh, hold on.
Oh, oh, uh,
You almost had it right.
almost. There it is. There it is.
I'm the author of Quantum Philosophy, Meanings, Answers, and Promises. It's a spiritual book. I do believe in the spirit. I believe in spiritual energy. I believe in consciousness. And this book you can purchase at basically anywhere online, Amazon, Barnes and Nobles. You can purchase it on eBay. But yeah, I'm a father of three. Those are my pride and joy. And I really like to understand different perspectives. And so that's the whole purpose of this channel.
Okay. So, well, thank you so much. So back to Michael Miller, our agnostic atheist. If you no longer exist after you die, how does that affect the value of your life right now?
If I understand, just to repeat, if I were to no longer exist, how in the future, how does that impact me while I'm living? Is that essentially what you're asking?
Yes, essentially that's it.
Um, I understand the spirit of the question, I believe. So essentially, for me at least, and it could be different for everybody, but for me, it makes me live my life um, to the fullest now. I don't have a second chapter coming, so I try to leave my mark the best way I can. Um, Ultimately, from my lens, I don't even know if existence beyond me is even a thing. So when I cease to exist, I have no clue what actually will continue to go on. And I don't mean that to be some people. It's a little deep in philosophy, but essentially it's like the problem of solipsism. I have no clue beyond my own existence what is real. So I don't really know. And I actually think that that particular problem is we could dive into it more if you like, but that particular problem holds true to almost everything that I see an issue with when it comes to um, an external God for me. Because they would have had designed a system where I'm unable to verify things outside of myself, and that's just an issue for me. If my punishment for not not believing XYZ is some negative thing. So, I don't know what happens after death. I would love all kind of wonderful things, but actually it's just a big question mark.
Okay. So if all this is all done and it's over with, and then God shows up and he's talking to you, what do you think he might say? How do you think that conversation would go?
I have no clue what a God would say to me. Um, I can say what I would say to such God,
Mhm.
and I would simply let them know that I had an open heart. Um, I never rejected anything that I actually knew existed, and that there was really no need to not make an existence known to me because I could still choose to reject even if I knew.
Right.
There are biblical stories, and I'm not saying these things are true. I'm just going along with the storyline. Um,
Exactly.
you know, Satan knew God existed, but still actively made the choice to reject. Right. So
Oh, yes.
I would have loved that particular opportunity to make the actual choice of acceptance or rejection without having to play hide and seek. and that's what I would say. And that would just be me being honest with myself and with, like say the hypothetical of a God appearing to me. That's what I would say.
Okay. So how do you view reality? Oh, I see someone else here. We'll introduce him after this question. How do you view reality?
How do I view reality? Honestly, I view reality through perspectives. So whatever lens that I want to view something through, for any particular moment, like for me, I literally view reality as the only thing as like a majority of it's unverifiable for me. Right. So, and that's because again, solipsism is unsolved for me. So I hold a presupposition that solipsism is not real, just so I can interact with reality. But when I touch this shirt, ultimately, my perception, my perspective, the lens in which I have the ability to perceive it, allows me to feel something and such. But what if I had a different perspective? What if my existence was a molecule or an atom? This shirt wouldn't be much, right? So it's super deep for the way that I perceive things, but reality is a big question mark, and I think it's about the lens you look at it through.
Exactly. So thank you so much. We're going to keep talking with you, but I want to go ahead and introduce our next guest. And I can't pronounce your name all the way, but I'd like for you to do that and tell us about yourself and any accolades. And it looks like it's Ankh, but you know the rest. How do you say your name?
Oh, how you doing, sis? Thank you for welcoming me to the panel. My name is Brother Ankh. Started the Amun-Ra Squad and Moss Clan Warriors, Pseudo Killers, and I just put together like a family of researchers. I'm an author, and I also put together programs called Real Black Atheism. So, I just wanted to introduce that idea into the world so that African people could be comfortable with, how they respond to the world and the world's problems. So, I just felt like it was important to also teach scientific literacy so that we could use it in a time when we need it the most. Like right now, we're in a pandemic, so scientific literacy rules today. Those who don't have it will fall prey to the charlatans, and those who do have it, you're gonna make it. You're gonna be able to produce a valuable offspring. So, yeah.
Okay, so we've gone through several questions, but I'm glad you're here and you can just join in with us.
Well, you know what? I would like to hear his responses because Brother Ankh has been here a long time in the community, and he's done several different things for our community to help us push forward. If you look up Brother Ankh, you can just Google him and you can see all the different, all the energy that he's put towards our community. So I would definitely like to hear his perspective on the questions that's been asked previously, now that he's joined us.
Okay, that's fine. So I'll go back to number one. Let me find one. So while we're waiting for me to find number one, let me go ahead and ask the next question. And that is, what is human spirit?
Oh, it's actually a Hebrew word. I believe the word is panyuwa. No, that's the Greek word. Panyuwa is just I think in the Hebrew it's ruach. It's just the wind. So this is actually a Hebrew term, and it has nothing to do with Africa. That's a Hebrew expression, Middle Eastern term. So I like it. Yeah. So for me, when you use words like that, you kind of close the world into like one geographical place. So words have definitions, and the original words are spoken upon by the cultures that kind of came up with the term. So now we use it real freely, but it's actually a Hebrew term. Just like spirituality is a Christian term, it really has no place in Africa, which is real interesting. So I really like to, instead of closing the world, because we kind of view it through the lenses of Hebraic culture. Okay, so there's pillars to it. There's the Hebrew culture. It's like a building with 3 floors. The base floor is the Hebrews. The next floor is the Christians. And then the next floor is the Muslims. But they're all in the same building, in the same geographical area. So I really like to teach my people that the world is certainly bigger than the biblical world. And our world was in existence before any Hebrew thought of even thinking about literature. So you don't even have literature without the creating of writing, which you can clearly find in Africa. And even if you look at the Hebrew scripts, it actually comes out of the Meta Neter script. And no scholar would actually debate you on that. So for me, I just basically wanted to open up the world. And when you open up the world, you realize that when you read the biblical text and you call it scripture, you actually fall into a small world. But when you realize it's just a text of information, then the world kind of fits where it's supposed to be. So each culture has writings and information that they will call sacred. And each culture develops ideas and concepts. Some cultures develops gods, and some cultures just decide to venerate their ancestors. So I'm not sure if I'm really answering the question, but we got to open the world up when we have these conversations. The world is certainly bigger than the biblical world. Read the text. The text will guide you and show you where you're at. They're not in Africa. They're not in Central Africa. They're not in South Africa. They're not in West Africa. They're in the Delta. It talks about the Delta. If you read the biblical text, type in Parameses. Parameses is simply the Delta. That's like the tip. That's like near the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, so that's not the whole 4,100 miles of the Nile River. That's surely not the whole of Egypt, and it's sure enough ain't Africa. It's not the whole continent of Africa. It's not North America. It's not South America. It's not Australia. It's not Europe. It's none of these things. It's a small piece of real estate when you're looking at the whole world. So I think our people kind of, they shrunk us into terms and ideas. And so when you say the word spirit, that's a Hebrew intervention. It ain't got nothing to do with us.
Okay.
Michael may want to answer that same question.
Yes.
I agree with Brother Ankh. Spirit, just by language, this is kind of my thing, the philosophy of language. When you actually break down the history and etymology of these terms, it does take you to what they meant. Now, I'll say the evolution of words, he touched on it. We use it freely in different ways, but it depends on really what you mean by that term. If you mean exactly what they meant in that small sphere, then yeah, it doesn't mean much to me. If you could say, the spirit of this company is great, so it's a play on words for me, but that's my background. I don't think spirit, in the sense of like metaphysics, like outside of the physical world, I can't verify that to exist. So, I don't hold a position on that, except that it's not been verified for me. But from a language standpoint, I agree with Brother Unc 100%.
So we're going to go ahead and ask you our first question that Michael Miller has already answered all these questions, but we'd like your point of view also. So what is an atheist?
You act, you want me to know what's an atheist? Yeah. So you have to actually do the history. If you look in the dictionary, it's going to say without deity, without God. But in reality, when they first started to apply the term, it was those who went against the state-sponsored religion. So the Christians in Rome, they was called atheists because they didn't pray to the Roman gods. Greek philosophers, Aristotle, Socrates, Plato's, they were subjugated to slavery or deported or actually murdered for not actually worshiping the gods of Greece. And so if you read Shikanti Diop's work, I believe it's on page 25, Civilization Barbarism, he talks about science being a problem to the state of Greece. And so those who were giving natural explanations of natural occurrences were considered atheists. So basically, the Greek gods were the gods that the state worshipped. So I think it's important to know that they always call you a non-believer, even if your civilization is older than theirs and predates them, like Islam, Christianity, and Judaism. It is very new. Africans, Native Americans have systems that predate the Hebrews. And so whenever you don't adhere to their state-sponsored religion or their state-sponsored deities, they'll call you an atheist. So that is actually the history of, that's the beginning of. Now through time is this anybody who does not believe in God or gods. But I will like to bring your attention to, there are African tribes and culture that do not have gods. They actually have their ancestors. So me personally, I venerate my ancestors, my great-great-grandmother, my great-great-grandfather, and my great-great-great-great-grandmother and great-great-great-auntie. So I recognize them as being the genetic makeup of who I am. We are a collaboration of genes. So I am made up of everything that came before me in my gene pool. So I honor that and I respect that. So it's funny, that term atheist, but no, I do not follow the state-sponsored religion of Islam, Christianity, or Judaism, because these were tools that they used to enslave African people. And I just got more heart than that. And I felt like God, based off the text, right? God actually does not have a treatise against slavery in the Old Testament. He actually is in support of it. Islam, the Quran, is actually in support of slavery. The New Testament is actually in support. So, when the God of the text actually supports slavery, like, why would I do that? Why would I shrink my world to that? The world is far larger than the biblical text. It's all based in learning geography. So if I'm an atheist and I'm against a state-sponsored religion, then is that not my right as a human being? It should never be looked at as something that's bad or negative. It's really saying I honor where I came from, and I recognize where I came from, and I do not fear the gods that they force me to worship. So for me, an atheist is a person who fights against the oppression. Remember, God is really a cultural word. It's a cultural icon. It's an idea and concept developed by human beings. And if the idea and concept that was developed by those people supports slavery, then it's a mechanism of slavery. So for me to be an atheist, it means I'm anti-slavery. I'm anti-cultures that supported slavery. I'm anti-racism, white supremacy, because they used Christianity to enslave us. The Muslims did the same thing. For 1,000 years, the Muslims enslaved the African. Okay? The Christians come in and they write doctrines like Papist Bull, Pope Julian the Sixth. He wrote the Papist Bull. It's during the age of exploration. Okay, and they write the Papist Bull and they literally draw a line down the map. Like you can't make this up, because Portuguese and Spain were fighting. The Pope was like, man, look, this is what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna divide the earth. I'm gonna draw the line down. Look it up. It's called demarcation line. We're gonna give the Americas to Spain. That's why Christopher Columbus came this way. And we'll give Africa in that area to Portuguese. And here's the statement in the Papist Bull. This is the Pope. He's the leader of the Christian church. He said, whichever land you discover and do not find a Christian monarch, you can enslave the inhabitants and bring their soul to Christ. I mean, like, once I figured that out, I like, okay, I got you. It's a cultural thing. It ain't got nothing to do with a God. It has absolutely nothing to do with that, and all something to do with politics. So an atheist is a person who rejects that.
Okay. And well, you probably touched on it with all the information you just gave us. But the question is, what are the different types of atheists?
Oh, yeah. So, well, man, shoot, soft atheists. That's a person who maybe not believes, but he's more open. Okay, like a Gnostic. You know what I'm saying? Where they say, well, I'm not rejecting God, but I'll wait for further evidence. You would consider that like a soft atheist. Like the Egyptians, a pantheists are considered soft atheists. Okay, real black atheists. And I just gave you the what I was talking about. I was giving you what a real black atheist is and why we don't deal with the state-sponsored religion. So you got hard atheists, soft atheists, real black atheists. There's a lot of different forms of not accepting particular gods. Like I also want to say, and I think I kind of mentioned it, but they also, Christians considered Muslims to be atheists, and Muslims considered Christians to be atheists. And everybody is atheist to somebody's God. That's the funny part. A Christian does not believe in Kulu Kulu, the God of the Zulus. You would actually reject that. You would say, no, that's not real. And so you also have like Buddhists. They're actually atheists. Buddhists don't have a God. It's called an atheistic religion. So you have atheistic religions where they don't have gods, they honor their ancestors. Buddhism, Zen Buddhism is the atheistic religion. In India, they also have atheistic religions at times. So it's a very complex subject. And then based off our history, see, whenever we talk about anything, we as Black people, right, we need to realize us in this context. So my atheism, right, which helps me survive North America, might be different for a European. You know what I'm saying? So that's why I give context to it. Real Black atheists. So that you'll know that I have a special relationship with the God of the Christians that, you know, that was slated to enslave us. So I just want people to know that I understand that relationship. And that does not mean that I don't have respect and honor for other human beings. That's far from the case.
That's good to respect everyone because we're all human. So what type of an atheist are you? What type of atheist are you?
Real Black atheist. I made it up.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right. I like that.
Yeah, I actually wrote a book, Chronology of Human Evolution, and I kind of explain it. And let's not forget, human beings invented God, and human beings invented culture. Human beings invented Hinduism, Judaism, Islam, Taoism. That's what human beings do. They invent ideas and concepts to help them survive in their ecology. So I'm a real Black atheist.
So real quick, I had Brother William share a screen. This is just, you weren't here, but this is how I broke down the question essentially of what an atheist is, what types of atheism is, and this I just had him share that. For me, because you weren't here, I fall under agnostic, atheist.
Yep.
We're strong, soft, weak atheists, all kind of different terms to describe it. Where do you fall, brother?
It's funny. It's depending on the conversation.
well, yeah. I tried to explain that, you know, for this God or for that God. So you touched on it. Is there any? So you say you fall under, you know, Gnostic atheist or agnostic atheist, depending on the God claim, right?
Nope. Remember, I told you I made my own category. Maybe one day it'll be added to it. Real Black atheist.
Okay, I appreciate you.
Yeah, you get the point I'm making?
Do you want to walk us through this graph?
That's a good chart, though. Yeah, that's a good chart. But I just decided to put my own hat into the arena. Why not?
I get you. Yeah. So
on the team, we got Theists, Agnostic, lack of belief in a God. Yeah, I felt like I didn't fit nowhere on that. So and depending on the conversation, but that's why, hopefully I'll be getting a Wikipedia page. We do got a Wikipedia page for the Mossy Clan Warriors. So I can kind of explain it. If you get the book, it's really a pamphlet. It explains what real Black atheism is. So I honor my ancestors, and like where does that put me at? Honor my ancestors. It ain't spooky because you are your ancestors.
Yeah.
Yeah, genetically speaking.
That's kind of like Kemet. That's kind of like Kemet that you're speaking on now. But you explained it well, and that makes a lot of sense how you came to that belief.
I understand that this is real quick. Is it Marjorie, right?
Right.
Yeah. So, Miss Marjorie, I know that you're a theist, and I'm just curious. I know this is a atheist, panel, but you're a theist. Which one do you fall under? Gnostic theist, agnostic theist, or something else?
Um, you're saying that I'm a theist who believe in God.
Oh, I thought you were. If you're not, let me know.
I'm just reading what you have here.
Oh, okay.
Just because I'm like the host here, I don't really want to put my opinions.
Okay,
in.
I'm sorry. No, you good.
That's okay.
I'm just
I don't
curious.
want you guys attacking me. No, I'm kidding.
Well,
I'm not going to. There were no followers. I always am curious. The theist never really looks at it like that. Usually, for me, a lot of people separate the words agnostic and atheist, but really, so I was just always curious. But don't worry about it. I understand.
So, Michael, just for the audience, for the viewers, if you can walk us through that, we have a better understanding of what this chart is actually saying. It looks like Chinese to me, so.
No, do it.
So I understand. So there's two terms here that are working independently, but when you put them together, they mean something, right? So Gnostic addresses knowledge, and agnostic, both of those terms are addressing some spectrum of that knowledge part. And belief is where the theist or atheist comes into play. That addresses that. So really, somewhere, if you had to place your dot somewhere on this map, to me, and respect to Brother Ankh, but somewhere you're going to fall under this depending on the particular God claim or conversation that you're falling under, because he's right. A Christian that holds the belief that their God is true is most likely a Gnostic atheist, I'm sorry, for all other claims. Or they wouldn't be, because you can't believe contradictory beliefs, right? It just isn't logically sound. So, if you're a Gnostic theist, you not only hold the belief that a God exists, but without a shadow of a doubt, this God exists, right? Versus an agnostic theist, you believe that a God exists, but you're not really claiming to actually know it. It's something that you just hold as a belief. And so, and the same applies for the atheist side of it, which I went over. So I always bring this chart when I'm having that conversation, just because I believe that terms matter, language matter, because I never want to pretend that I know what someone is, just because they give a title. So I understand. Tell me where you fall on this, so I know exactly, a better understanding of what you're saying. So that's me. I find the chart very helpful.
I like that chart. You notice it has a cross on that chart.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll go to our next question, and that is, how do people react when they learn that you're an atheist? You're a Black atheist, right? How do they react to that? Brother Ankh.
Oh, yeah, they think you out your mind. And they be like, well, how come you don't believe in nothing? I'll be like, no, I just don't believe in the gods that was taught to me. That doesn't mean I don't have beliefs. Like, I don't believe that human beings invented a God in one place, and that particular God supposed to rule over the whole world. I think believing in a God and saying you have the God is the most arrogant thing that humans could ever come up with. As a matter of fact, it ushered in wars. Like the Muslims and the Christians fought like hell. It's called the Crusades. It's called proselytizing religions. Now, the African system didn't do that. It didn't proselytize. You don't see the Egyptians co-opting people into their religion. As a matter of fact, they allowed foreign deities into their pantheon. So they allowed you to bring in your own expression of what you thought it was that helped you survive in your ecology. Is what they did. But Islam, Christianity, and Judaism, they have specific names for you when you don't believe in God or you don't believe in a God, and they proselytize and they want to bring you to the faith. But once I studied geography and studied how long human beings have been on the earth, for at least 3.5 million years. When I say humans, there are several different species of humans that's been on planet Earth. Okay, now Homo sapiens sapien, human is called Homo human. Homo sapiens sapien has been on Earth for 350,000 years, and for 350,000 years, based off the ecology where Africans was, if they lived near the river, then they deified the river and they called it Hapi, okay, the water deity. And if you depended on the desert, then you would deify the desert. And if you lived in the forest, the Twa, the Hutu, these little people that they considered the forest to be their mother and their father. And so based off where you live at, based off where you at and how you feel, human beings have been making up ideas around deity forever. So I just figured it out that, man, y'all arrogant as hell right there with the Christians and the Muslims and the Jews. It's just arrogancy to think that you have the God. But of course you would enslave me with that name because you're arrogant. Now for me, I say that all the gods are real. So now what? See?
So if anyone's having an argument about anything, whatever they believe, they think is true. So it wouldn't matter what it is, but right now we're talking about deities. So I want to say to Michael Miller, anytime you want to just chime in, you're welcome to do that. So our next question that we have is for Brother Ankh. There are a lot of different religions and they fellowship, they have a place they go and they get together. What about atheists? Do they fellowship with one another?
Yeah, it's funny because I don't run around saying I'm an atheist or run around saying I don't believe in God. That's not even a conversation. I do everything, Christmas, all the holidays, because I refuse not to be with my grandmother and my great aunts. They raised me. So it wouldn't matter what day it was. If that's the days that they have off, when the families can come together, I'm going to be there. If my grandmother say, boy, you going to church? I'm going to church. And I will enjoy myself when I'm there with her. I'm not going to listen to the pastor with all that extraordinary Middle Eastern claims. But I'm just saying, just being with my grandmother, it doesn't matter. So not accepting what was given to you as you was enslaved does not mean that you don't carry on with your life. It doesn't mean that at all. It simply means that you cannot get me into thinking the world is actually that small. And that y'all white boys got the God. Like, for me, it's insulting to disrespect Native American culture. They was here, they was in North, they mutated in North America about 30,000 years ago. And they developed ideas and concepts that they deified. They deified their ancestors. So for me, Matthew, Mark, and Luke, and Isaac, and Jacob, I ain't got nobody named that in my family when I went down my lineage. So these are actually Hebrew ancestors. So I just refuse to honor other people's ancestors because that's all the Bible is. It's an ancestral worship shrine. And Jesus Christ, he honors his ancestors and he tells it. Adam and Eve is the great ancestor of Jesus Christ. So I get it. Well, hell, we've been venerating our ancestors for eons. 350,000 years prior to Christianity, we honored our ancestors. So it's complicated, right? Our human beings, and I guess you're going to come across a question. We can talk about why we believe what we believe, because it's very interesting. But yeah, that's it.
So now, how does being a Black atheist help you connect with your fellow man?
I'm a real Black atheist. That's different. So like a Black atheist will do everything the white atheists do. They'll honor, say, Dawkins, Hitchens, Lawrence Krauss, right? For the real Black atheist, I'm gonna honor Hubert Harris. It's Black History Month. Shout out to Hubert Harris. They called him the Black Socrates. Okay, he's the first person, he's the first guy, and he's in Harlem during that Renaissance era when he's actually teaching, he's beating up religion. He's an atheist. But he's teaching Black scholars, he's teaching Black studies on the corner of Harlem. Okay, he's a pioneer. He actually wrote for Garvey in the newspaper, Garvey's newspaper. He wrote for that. He's a historian. He spoke Greek. He spoke Hebrew. You wasn't getting around him. John Henry Clark, he's also an atheist. A masterful historian. Dr. Ben, he's an atheist. Masterful at the way he taught. John Jackson, he's an atheist. So for me, a real black atheist, I'm gonna honor those. I'm gonna honor those brothers. Okay, and I also respect Hitchens and all those, but I'm a black man. I got black babies, and so they need to be able to see, you know, how we was. So yeah, that's basically where I'm at with that.
A black atheist, I want to make sure I keep saying that because you're saying that you created that yourself. So you know, religion creates a culture. Being a black atheist, I said it again, how do you create the culture for your children, or do you?
Oh yeah, we scientific literacy. And I never actually told the babies what they should believe in and what they should not. You simply ask me a question about the sun, and I'm gonna give you the scientific answer, what the sun is. You wanna know where people came from? I'm gonna give them the evolutionary answer. So I never told them that they had to believe or didn't believe. I just let them learn for themselves and ask the questions. So I never said God made the sun. I never said that. I never said Allah made the sun. I never said that. I never said Kulu Kulu made the sun. Never said that. I simply gave them the proper answer, the scientific answer. So we practice scientific literacy around here. And that's a culture unto itself, because scientific literacy helps you understand your community. You can look it up. Scientific literacy. It understands your politics, understands how to deal with money. All this has something to do with scientific literacy. Most people don't even know that. Maybe later on I'll read the definition of it. So it's the culture of intelligence, the culture of science around here, the culture of intelligence and reading books. You feel me? That's the type of culture I promote. All my kids are in college. I got two twins. Got two twins. They're in college, in their third year college. They all got A's and B's. I got a daughter in college. She's going to her third year. She got all A's. And I got two left, and they doing one wants to be a scientist. So the culture we got is excellence around here.
That's it. That's it. Do everything in excellence. That's all right.
Yeah, or get out the game.
Answered the next question with it, which was, do you celebrate Christmas? So we know you go along with the tradition of your family, although you're not doing it because of what they believe. You're just doing it out of respect, right?
No, I'm doing it because I had fun around Christmas. We had fun around Christmas. Everybody home. I mean.
So what's the most difficult part about being a black atheist?
Dealing with brain dead black people who refuse to realize that Judaism came 350,000 years later. That your ancestors actually predate the God of the Bible. People can't, it goes over everybody's head. The quick answer is simple. No God talked to nobody at all. Human beings wrote the Bible. They say, well, it's inspired by God. Right. Of course it is, because human beings say it. God never said, God never comes, he walks up to you and say, hey, never hear that. It's always human beings. So you realize that human beings make God.
Well, what about the opposite of God? What about the opposite? What about that one?
No, if God's supposed to be God, then God wouldn't have an opposite, right? Because God is all things at all times. Alpha, Omega, the beginning and the end. There is no, if there's the Africans have said none but God. Meaning, if God is in the beginning, then nothing predates the beginning. Because God would have to be the beginning. So the question is, what did God use to make anything? Well, there's nothing to use but God. So everything is God. It's like an ocean. And you dip a cup in the ocean and walk away. But when you look in the cup, you still have ocean, just a small part. So a molecule will be a small part. A human will be a small part. A proton, a neutron will be a small part. Everything will be God.
So where did the universe come from? Where did it come from?
Universe. Oh, you want to answer that? I can answer it next.
Well, he has answered, but I also let him know that
the
he
universe.
can chime in
Okay.
at any time.
Oh, so a universe is a closed system. Look up closed systems, meaning everything that's needed to make the universe is already in the universe. So people think it's a matter of where it come from. It always was here.
Oh, okay.
We just can't measure it past 13.5 billion years.
Wow.
But there is no nothing, because nothing from nothing leaves nothing. So it always was something. We just can't measure it. We can only measure it 13.5 billion years.
I agree with that. That's true.
You ain't just pop up out of nowhere.
So how did life come about? That's for Brother Ankh. Anybody that wants
they don't know.
Real quick, brother Ankh. Are you a panentheist? I mean, panentheist, where you talking about, just from a philosophical standpoint, you're saying, well, God was there in the beginning. I mean, I know you talking about other people's stories, right? But I'm saying,
that was I was giving a philosophical. That was philosophy.
Yeah, exactly. So, would you describe them really as where you're saying if God's in the beginning, everything is of God, so everything is God? That's really panentheism, where
that's pantheist, right?
They just don't identify it as that. Is that what we talking about, right?
Yeah, because that's really pantheist, and that's really so if you really look at it, that's what scientists says, that everything is interconnected.
Yeah.
Like that's scientific right there. There is nothing that don't belong here.
Let me chime in on that question that Mike just brought up. So what Brother Ankh was describing as far as God being the universe as being equal to the universe, that's a pantheist view. But a panentheist is going to take it a step further. A panentheist is going to say that there's a consciousness behind the universe.
Oh, okay.
That's beyond the universe, and it's also within the universe. So there's a deeper level to it for a panentheist. So I would be qualified as a panentheist. Kemet would be a panentheist. Pantheist is a term. It's like a flip coin of the atheist. An atheist and a pantheist is pretty similar. Different ways of saying the same kind of concepts.
That's what I was touching on when I was saying earlier. You weren't here, but it was like when they say, "Am I an atheist?" It depends on the concept. Some people claim trees are gods and nature is God. Well, then I believe in trees and I believe in nature, right? So in that sense, I wouldn't use the term God, but yeah, we hold the same belief as far as to a certain level. So that's like a panentheist where it's like a pantheist where it's everything is just one. And yeah, I mean, I think to an extent, science almost goes that route because it talks about everything connected. It studies only the physical. It's where everything is included. It's a closed system. So these are kind of the language things that you're saying to where when you talk about being able to view it that way, it kind of falls in within that. So I was just curious.
Yeah, I think, but the pantheists say there's nothing outside of nature, so it wouldn't be no consciousness behind nature. Then.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly what that is. So, but it'd be more something like a strong atheist would be that, because you're not subscribing to that higher, you're a strong atheist. Everything's one, right? So,
but the human being gonna say that. That's the point.
Yeah. Perspective. Yeah.
The human being say there's a higher. I know. That's the point. That human beings do, and see, for real, the conversation should be the development of the Stone Age brain.
Yeah.
See, when we deal with psychology and the development of the brain, we understand that through the processes of biological human evolution, it was better for you to believe. So people like me and you, we wouldn't have made it.
Yeah.
In the Stone Age. Because we'd have walked by some leaves and seen them move, be like, oh, what the hell is that? Why are these leaves moving like that? Right? And it could have very well been a snake and bit us, right? But the believers, they'd have walked by and seen the leaves move, they would have ran.
Yeah.
Humans were real fickle. They were surrounded by predators. They lived in the trees. Everything at nighttime was the worst. Monsters. That's why we had, there was monsters in all cultures, except for when they came to the Americas, they didn't have monsters. So we believed in monsters up into the 1600s. We actually believed that human beings came from the Bible. Like, this is unfathomable right now for us, but that's exactly, we believed in dragons and ghosts and goblins, right? And so watch this. A human being will mistaken a shadow for being human, but they will never mistaken a human for being a shadow. You feel me? So your mind is designed to believe. If we're upstairs in our house and something crashes through the door, we're going to think somebody's breaking in. We're not going to think, hey, man, something crashed through the door. We're going to think somebody's really breaking in. Okay? Once you go downstairs, you realize, well, the tree just fell. But our mind is designed through the evolutionary process because those who believed more lived longer. So when that high grass moved on the savannah, we broke out, right? We believed it was something that would harm us. So it's quicker for you to run and get out the way, then go back and figure it out, than for us to stand around and say, I don't know. That grass didn't quite move that way. I think it's the wind. Those people got ate more times than not. But as we got more sophisticated, and as we learned more things, right, our brain kind of works against us. So what we're doing is, it's unnatural for us not to believe in a God. We have to fight it. We have to fight the programming.
Oh, 100%.
Evolutionary programming. It's an evolutionary programming.
Yep.
That our minds are literally, like, for instance, let me show you something here. Let's take a baseball player, right? A baseball player, when they go up to bat, what do? You'll see them adjust their gloves 100 times, touch their shoulders, right? Hit their cleats, right? And every time they come up to bat, they'll do the exact same thing, right? Because somewhere along the line, they got a good hit doing that. And they never want to stop doing that. So they do it over and over again. So things that we fail at, we develop superstitions. Things we are successful at, we don't. So let's take the same baseball player when he's in the field. Since catching the ball is far more easier than hitting a baseball, we don't do all those rituals because they normally catch the ball. Yep. Every blue moon they make an error, right? So there's no need to do the superstitious thing to make sure you do it. When we look up in the clouds, we see all types of different animals and stuff. That's called patternicity. Okay? You ain't no toy in the clouds, ain't no ducks in the cloud, but our mind is designed to see patterns. It's called patternicity.
Yeah, we are pattern-seeking machines. Yes, we are.
Correct. So Jesus Christ and the breadcrumbs, you ever seen that? And the bread, the toast, all of that. So our minds is actually, our religion is really based in our mind. It's part of the evolutionary process to believe in a God. Like, that's beliefs. And charlatans take advantage of that. Right? Cult leaders take advantage of that. That's why a lie is far more easy as you believe than the truth. See? But this is based off evolution.
Okay, so now we know that agnostic atheists and Black atheists don't believe that in God, especially other people's gods. And agnostic added to that is you're not really sure. But so my next question is, do you believe that aliens exist? And that's directed to Brother Ankh.
Well, the real question should be, do I believe there's going to be other life forms? Yes, I do. There's 300 billion suns, right? So it's a better chance of there being other life forms than not. Suns give birth to planets, and planets give birth to water, and water give birth to life. So no, aliens, you mean, no, I don't believe in the Martians, no, I don't believe in none of that. But based off my scientific mind, I would realize that there's a better chance of there being life than not. That we're not special in the cosmos. But no, I don't think there's no aliens and no space. No, I don't believe that. Not at all.
No Martians. My favorite Martian.
We answered that very similarly. I'm interested to hear your answers to these things because a lot of them are very similar, just in different words, different ways. So it's interesting.
Exactly.
Oh, back in the 40s, 50s, they thought it was really Martians. Yeah, have y'all been watching the Land Rover and watching different programs on Mars? Like back in the 50s, they really thought it was canals on Mars. And people made those canals. They really thought that. It's in the Washington Post back then. Right?
Yeah.
So as we learned, and they sent the craft and it actually went by Mars and took a picture, right? I think after they went to the moon or something, they took a picture. They're like, oh man, ain't nobody up there. Because then they knew, right? And so it's always based off of what again? Belief. So I don't believe in aliens, but I do recognize that based off the vastness of outer space, when you get to space, they don't measure in like time. It's distance. So when I'm talking about light years, I'm talking about distance, right? Time is measured based off of the planet circulating the sun, 24 hours in a day. But once you leave the Earth, then what time is it? It's just distance now. And so the distance is so far and so vast, light years, is so that even if it was other life forms, like by the time they got to us, we might just be dust, like Mars. You know what I'm saying? I know you know what I'm saying. That just sheer contact is literally impossible.
Yep.
Like how would we sync up?
What?
You know what I'm saying? Like they were running, like we look at ants like they ain't intelligence, right? Like we leave ants alone. We could be in it's crazy. We could be in some crazy colony for real, being controlled by, like you wouldn't know it. So, but now I don't believe in Martians. Nope, not at all. Nope. I stick with the science.
Okay, so my Zoom went off and came back up. Did anybody else do that?
Yeah. I was still speaking.
Okay. So, do you believe that technical information can be passed down through genetics, Brother Ankh?
Doubly what?
Do you believe that technical information can be passed down through genetics? Passed down through the generations.
Technical information like what?
Well, anything technical.
Huh?
Anything that would be technical, things that people learn. I mean, it could be anything. Nah. What comes to mind?
No, I know with genes, the way you talk, you use a gene, a FOXP2 gene. The way your heart beats is based off of your genes that control the heart and the muscles in the heart. Everything is genes, but no, that's you talking about your brain. Technical information is passed down to the human brain. Thoughts, and you have to word them off, and that's why they start writing, because it don't just pop up. I know this based off of my father knew it. No, that's not. Nope, never heard of that study.
Okay. What happens to you when you die?
You get recycled like everything on Earth. Everything is recycled and used for the system. Everything is biodegradable. All living organisms are biodegradable. Everything is biodegradable. Everything is used. So remember, on planet Earth, death actually feeds life. And I like to give the example of salmon swimming back upstream. And as they swim back upstream, bears catch these fish, these salmon, and they take them to the cubs, right? But the fish is dead after the bear catches it. But the death of the salmon actually gives energy to the bear. The bear will go on to mate and have other babies. But as the salmon goes far upstream and dies on the riverbanks, right, it actually dies, decays, and it goes back into the forest. And so it feeds the forest. As a monkey falls out the tree and hits the ground, the ants, the insects, chop it all the way down. Viruses and bacteria chop it all the way down. It becomes food for the plants and the trees. So everything is biodegradable, and death feeds life on Earth. So that's what happens. That is the process. Now, human beings will make up stories. One of the oldest such stories is from the Egyptians. When they talk about heaven, that's an Egyptian story. And then the Christians come with heaven. The Hebrews didn't have a story of heaven. The Muslims talk about heaven, but the Jews don't.
Okay, so if you no longer exist, how does that affect you right now? If you were not to exist anymore?
No longer exist. No, I got kids. I have children. I will know. There's no such thing as no longer exist. My kids have half of my genes and half of their mother genes. So I'm good. The woman in my life has actually furthered my eternal life. Life is eternal. That's why we mate.
How I took the question was, if you believe that nothing happens after you die, as far as you and at like a heaven or whatever, how does that impact how you live today?
Right, exactly.
Oh, see, yeah, that's the trick. The fact that I know that I'm biodegradable, the fact that I know that I only got one shot at it, then you really gotta hustle. Because you know ain't getting no more chances. Once your mother gone, she gone.
The next question is,
could you hear me?
Do you believe in some form of a higher consciousness?
What? Can you hear me?
Marjorie?
Yeah, she can't hear me. Yeah, she can't hear me. You can hear me though, right?
Okay, yeah, now I can hear. It was yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, you was asking me since the question was, you said, so since I don't believe in like a heaven and all that, and I no longer exist, how does that affect me on earth? I think it gives you finality, like it's final. And so every day has to be an adventure. Like, you know, once your mother is gone, she's gone. My father and my mother's gone, right? And so you get the most out of the relationships while they're living, because that's it. I think when you fake yourself out and think you're going to meet them again, then you can kind of put some things off. But the truth is that you can't put nothing off. There's no expiration date on us. That like when it's over with, it's over with. So when every time you see your mother, you tell her you love her, you give her a hug, you give her a call, right? You spend time with your children. You make time for them, because all you got in this world is your memories and your friendships you developed. Because that's it. So if you want to be an actor, then you need to work and be an actor. Because once it's over, it's over with.
Right. Whatever it is that you want to do, you should be working hard to do that.
You ain't lying, because once you did, that's it.
So I can use colloquialism, you know, and play the devil's advocate here. You know, there's always a flip side to that concept. You know, I hear it all the time when people say that if you're no longer in existence, your spirit is just, there's no spirit, there's no life after death, then that means your life today means nothing. That means that, you know, nothing that you do matters. What do you say to that type of concept?
They religious. and they ain't too sharp. There's 47,000 systems in the world. So why you feel? I hope you picked the right one.
I think for me to answer that is more philosophical. Meaning is just subjective. It's about what it is through the lens in which you look at. You know, what a dollar means to me. What does that mean to a tribe in the Amazon that don't have a concept of money in that same way, right? So it's all just about perspective. If one thinks if there's no afterlife, I mean, I don't quite grasp, you know, what they're essentially saying is, without a God, my life has no meaning. Well, that's kind of odd to me, because you can still make meaning in almost anything. I mean, it's about perspective to me. So that, just from the philosophical lens, I'll just add that.
Yeah, so good point.
Okay, our next question is, why do you think so many people believe in God? He's up there, he's everywhere.
Oh, I told you, because your mind is based off of evolution. Because it was better for you to believe that it was a predator in the grass that could kill you than to contemplate whether it was the wind or not. So you automatically believe it's something that can harm you, because humans we're very fragile. Prior to technology, we were at the mercy of everything around us. And so your brain had to get you out of it. And so through the evolutionary process, those who were more afraid, right, actually passed their genes on more often than those who questioned stuff. I'm gonna say it again. Those who were more afraid of everything around them passed their genes on more often than those who were asking questions like we do right now. That makes sense to you? It's all in the gene.
Hey, yeah.
Yes, it's
I think
right.
I understand what you're saying. You're saying that becoming superstitious, as in forming beliefs, forming concepts of something beyond physical, is an evolutionary tool to further your life, so that it's a survival technique.
Back then in the Stone Age, we got Stone Age brains now. So I'm saying we're in a space age now, but we still have Stone Age brains. It has not caught up with our technology. So now we know how the sun was formed. Right? Back then we thought something made it. We thought a volcano was a god. Right? Yet the god of the mountain, Moses and them obviously thought the only mountain that has fire on it is a volcano. It's sacred. So why is a volcano sacred? Well, why is God mad in a cloud of dust on top of the mountain? Right? When God is mad, he explodes and kills everybody. So you never wanted to make the gods mad. So you would appease the gods so they wouldn't be mad. When a typhoon came through or a tsunami came through, you felt like the water god was mad. So you felt like you did something wrong. So you wanted to appease him so it wouldn't happen again. You didn't know what a volcano was. You sure as hell didn't know what a tsunami was. You just didn't know. Okay? But your belief made you believe these things. And the point I was trying to make is that human beings live in an environment where there were other top predators, right? We didn't have the tools. It's not like we popped up out of nowhere with fully functional tools and guns and rifles. All we had was our hands. And you had lions, tigers, bears, other gorilla, all kind of stuff around us, right? And nighttime was when they was hunting. You know what I'm saying? And so you had to move every sound, every bump in the night, right? You looked at it as being a predator. Right now, this day, when you hear a crack, you get scared. When you upstairs, you know, goodness well ain't no ghosts. You hear the floors cracking, you think somebody walking, don't you? Even now, people still believe in that because it's part of our mind. You can't get it out of your head. That's the point. It's a gene that makes you feel this way. Emotions are caused by genes in the brain, right? And so when you be afraid, like crying, those who cried more survived longer because somebody feels sorry for you and will help you out when you cry. That's the only reason we cry, is because more people who cried live longer than those who didn't. Oh, you don't need no help. I ain't gonna save you, I'm gonna kill you. You stand up like a warrior and you get mowed down like a warrior. So you had tribes that lasted longer who wasn't as violent. The violent tribes fell in war all the time. But the tribes that were more subdued, right? They lasted longer. So it was a survival mechanism programmed in your brain. And those genes were passed on. So more people had genes that made them cry, and more people had genes, right, that made you believe there was something in the dark. Even when it wasn't, you believe that something was going to get you in the dark. Now, imagine if you didn't have fear of the dark back then. You would walk out there and get ate up immediately.
Well, the same thing is in the dark that's there in the light. So,
yeah, I think, you know, to answer it for me, I agree with what Brother Unk's saying from a foundational standpoint. That definitely impacts how we process information. It speaks to a conversation I had recently with someone, and it's like faith in what you don't know. You believing that this is actually the case, even if you don't know it. That is a tool that I tried to express, whether or not, you know, to take it to his analogy, in that darkness, and whether there's a snake there or not. If you believe that there was, you're more likely to survive because you avoided it. Versus if you didn't hold that belief, right? This is a matter of whether it's true or not, right? The actual truth compared to how they just, you know, behave. So, but for me, I think people come to a God belief for many different reasons. One of the more common ones that I come across, because I engage people of all faiths and try to essentially address the what and the why, what they believe and why do they believe it. And a lot of times what I see is people will have experiences that they cannot cannot explain away essentially with something other than this panacea of all explanations, which is God did this. And it makes them more comfortable now that they have an explanation. That is psychological. That's upstairs. I'm not saying that the God wasn't the explanation. Understand what I'm saying. However, I'm saying they don't know that it was. They assert that it was, and they just go along with that because that makes them feel comfortable. And to tag on to what he said, when you're comfortable, those people that were uncomfortable that stood around and back in those days that didn't, proceed and they was blah, 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 they did not pass on that as much as the people who did. And that there's all kind of factors in there, but I agree with them 100%. I'm just adding a little nuance on it.
You're right. It's called evolutionary psychology. You can read it up. It's a part of your brain that's designed to believe. It just don't make sense. Like right now, we know what a mountain is, man. We don't gotta believe God gonna get mad and blow up and kill everybody in the city. I forget. It was it was crazy. It was a time when I forget the city, man. This is supposed to be one of the most religious cities, and they always worship God. And a tsunami came through. They had a lot of churches and all that, and a tsunami came through and wiped out the whole city. And they just couldn't believe why God would do that to that place, because they had the churches that they was doing what they supposed to do, and they got wiped out. And I think that's when that's when people really started to be atheists. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. Yeah, it's great, but I mean, how can I express that it's part of the evolutionary process?
I think you did a great job with the darkness and like I said, with a snake right there. Regardless of what's true, if you believe that it was a snake, if you held that belief, you avoided that.
You avoided them leaves right there moving.
You avoided that, and when you avoid that, even potential danger, regardless of what's actually true, you're much more likely to survive and pass that along than the people who didn't hold that. And that is exactly what evolution is. See, there's a misconception about evolution. The strongest survive. That's a misconception.
Misconception.
There's a lot of factors to evolution. There's a lot of factors to evolution, and one of them is exactly what he's saying. And I think that people don't connect those dots, but I think that's a huge thing to why a lot of humans are pre-wired to believe in things that they absolutely just don't know if it's true or not. And I think comfort's a big thing there. I feel comfortable not going near those knees because now I know that I'm not in danger, regardless of if it's true or not. But that also holds, like he said, we're in a space age now, and that mentality definitely holds folks back to an extent as well.
Yeah, fear. Like I think I'm gonna add on real quick. Fear has its purpose. You want to have a fear of heights. You know what I'm saying? Like imagine you just have no fear of heights and you just fall to your death. That's why when you get on a high bridge, you get close to the edge, you have a fear of falling off because it is a possibility. The closer you get to the edge, the more possibility it is for you falling and killing yourself. Stop you from killing yourself. Having fear of guns, not just standing there. You know what I'm saying? So war is a real unnatural thing because we actually fear that. It's interesting how the mind actually works, though. But yeah, so like, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say it's funny you say that because I'm gonna ask Tehuti here. When we talk about the Matrix, when you were able to manipulate and expand your mind beyond that control, which is really just metaphorical to me on how our brains work.
Yeah.
If you were in that movie, when you were able to expand that, guess what? They were able to do things beyond what our brains would think would be allowed, right? They let go of that. You see Neo stop bullets. You see them defy these physics and XYZ and blah, blah, blah. So that kind of mind play there. That's why I love the Matrix so much. You weren't on here, but we were saying how we love that movie so much. And it's just a lot of connections with a lot of these concepts because the people who wrote that and put that into play, they put a lot of those questions in there to make you think.
I think Brother Ankh kind of touched on that on his own way by saying that, different religions and the Bible makes the world really small, which means you get rid of all the potential. And that's basically what he's saying, is he wants to capitalize on the potential instead of being stuck in one frame of work.
Yeah, that's a good point. So we shouldn't fear. Fear shouldn't rule the day. That, you know, like for instance, when you say the white man is the devil, like, man, you're teaching fear, right? Because most of us are orientated to the Bible, and you know, God don't even kill the devil in the Bible. The devil is off the chain. He can do what he want to do, right? And to call a white person that, you giving them the ultimate power. You give them dominion over you. They're humans just like us. That's promoting fear. When they say the vaccine is going to kill you, those groups of people are actually promoting fear. Okay, and it's an unhealthy fear, because watch this. When a person is afraid to get in a jet plane and fly, right? And so if you got a chance to drive across to California from Maryland, or fly from Maryland to California, the safer trip is the plane. You stand a greater chance of being in a car accident than ever being in a plane accident. Plane crashes are rare. Tiger Woods was just in a car accident, right? You're in a car accident more than you ever will be in a plane crash. It's just so devastating when the plane crashes happen, but planes are far more safer. Watch it. A vaccine is far more safer than you walking across the street. So if you walking across the street to go to the park, that's far more dangerous than a vaccine. But the way the anti-vaxxers promote it, they promote fear. And see, fear was part of the evolutionary process. So you will feed into the fear. It's like a frenzy. You will feed into the fears. So they say, well, only 1% of people are going to die from COVID. But 1% of 7.2 billion people is a lot of people. Almost 500,000 people have died in the United States from COVID-19. Listen, the coronavirus has killed 500,000 Americans. The vaccine ain't killed nobody, but yet people are more afraid of the vaccine than a virus that they just seen kill 500,000 people. Their believing mind leads them to believe that the government is trying to kill them, but yet you miss the fact that people are really dying. And then the fact that you don't see people dropping dead in the street, like, I don't see nobody dying. Wait, what that got to do because you ain't seen it? How many people have you seen in a car accident? Thousands of car accidents happen every day. You didn't see Tiger Woods have a car accident, but you know he's in the hospital. So the fear, if not controlled, will be used against you. And that's why we use scientific literacy, because science is counterintuitive. It's counterintuitive.
Let me ask you a question, brother. It's on topic of what you were discussing, and it's real quick. I was having a conversation, I'm a very logical mind, right? Mm-hmm. And I was trying to explain see, there's a lot of nuance people skip over. They hear one thing, they hear, and they don't see the exact thing that I'm saying. So I'm having the conversation, and it speaks to, I'll use your plane analogy, right? Versus a car. I tried to express that I do not trust that I'm actually going to arrive safely on this plane, right? In your analogy. I don't trust that because I don't know that. Right. That's not what I'm placing my trust in. What I know are these statistics about previous car versus plane, right? Mm-hmm. That's what I'm placing my trust in, that the known. Now, I'm curious from your perspective, do you personally, do you place your trust in the unknown of what you don't know, or what you do know?
I put my trust in what I know, because what you don't know, you don't know. We only know what we know. So what we do know is based off of the numbers that a plane is far safer than any daggone car you can get your butt in. We do know that for a fact.
To be precise in language, right? What you're saying is essentially, because language is very lazy, you're saying that what we know is that planes have been more safer, right?
On average.
Yeah, on average than a car, right? Yep. So when just to expand this, I was combated, because this all comes down to faith, essentially, where somehow it's my fault that I don't have faith that God exists, right? So I'm trying to explain that I don't use faith like y'all using in anything. That's not anything that I even touch on, right?
Yeah.
So where I'm coming from is they're saying, well, why would you get on this plane and put your family in danger if you don't believe that, if you don't hold this faith that you're going to make it? I don't and I explain whether I have that faith or I don't have that faith, and I take that action, the outcome is what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
I really catch the nuance that you're explaining. And it reminds me of the game roulette. That's what it reminds me of. So you play the odds. You're playing the odds. It's not that you have faith that the fact that when you roll this dice or when the number's played is that you're going to hit. It's not that you have faith in hitting that number. It's the fact that you're going to play the odds. You got 50-50 chance over here, or a 30% chance, or 26-1 chance over here. And what you're saying is, I don't have faith that I'm actually going to hit that number.
Yes.
That's the point that I'm not putting this money on this table because I have faith I'm going to hit that number. I'm just going to put the odds based on the history.
And the thing that's funny about that is it's exactly that. I take the action of the bet on whatever it is that it is because I'm willing to accept that risk, right? It's not because I know that I'm going to hit this black 8. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
That's exactly what happens when I push my car brakes. I'm not saying that I know them brakes are going to work.
Right, because they might not. It's a possibility.
Because they might not. But when I do it, I accept the risk. I never have faith they will work.
Right.
I know what they have done in the past. And I think that there's something missing there that when I'm trying to explain it, William's a privy to the particular conversation. So, William, you may play a bridge there. And now that you hear exactly the nuance in what I'm expressing and why I said, when somebody's trying to describe to me what I'm doing, but you never getting it right because you're missing that nuance, that little piece. And I was just curious from another perspective, a person who I just took a leap there and said, curious how this atheist brother views that. Are you saying you take this faith in what you don't know or what you do, and then you still take the action, blah, blah, blah. It's a sidetrack, but it's very relatable because it's about faith and such. And so I'm just curious.
Yeah, science is predictive though.
Yep.
It predicts. Charles Darwin predicted that based off of fossils that he found with extinct apes, that humans will find distinct fossils that will connect them to the daggone apes. Whenever they found something that was extinct, they found the thing that wasn't extinct that was related to it. So they predicted the same thing would happen in humans. Remember, Charles Darwin was very careful when he wrote his book, The Origin of the Species by Way of Natural Selection, right? And he didn't mention humans. He mentioned humans in one little line in passing at the end of the daggone book. Remember, he lived in a world where people actually believed they came from the Bible. And he was cautious in using humans. But he knew if a daggone fish could do it, if a flower could do it, then a human could do it.
Yep.
He realized that it was all related. So if a virus, watch this. This is deep. We know for a fact that the coronavirus has different variants to it. That is evolution right in front of our faces.
Yep.
This new variant might not be working, but might not. The new variant, it might have resistance to the vaccine. And everybody agrees about it, but they don't realize it's evolution. So if a virus can evolve because it's an organism, okay, that uses cells to live through, then humans will evolve. Because a virus evolves based off the different environments it goes into. Each body is a different ecosystem for that virus. Different sets of genes in everybody. No human has exact same match on genes. They all shuffled. Each generation, every time you have a baby, the genes are shuffled. Bam, 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 bam. And why is it shuffled? Because it gives you different variations so they can escape attack by bacteria and viruses, which is a whole nother conversation, right? Yeah. But I'm simply saying that viruses evolve, thus humans evolve. Humans didn't just dive out of the middle of nowhere. The biblical narrative says that, but that's not reality at all. We evolved over time. So over time, if you go back farther in time, humans won't look like they look right now. They'll look different. And the older you and the farther you go back, the deeper in the strata, the different levels you go down, the more you'll see Homo sapiens sapiens start to change to the point where you won't even see them on Homo sapiens sapiens no more. You'll find other archaic humans that could walk upright, but they won't find us in the fossil record.
The biggest
science predicts this, though. That's all I'm saying. It's predicted. We can predict.
The biggest battle you'll see with evolution when you're talking about that is there's some made up terms, micro and macro, that in evolution ain't a thing, right? So, but they make this distinction, like, yeah, they can see a virus become a different virus, but they don't see a virus become a dog, some silliness, right? So I'm saying if one actually understood evolution, you'll understand, for example, a eukaryote. It's just a type of being early on the classification. Anything that comes after that would never be a non-eukaryote. You're always going to have that you're going to be that, right? You just may be what you use for the virus, a variant of that. And that's exactly what humans are, a variation of whatever that's, go all the way back to the sub, you know what I mean? So it's like, that's what evolution, that's why there's no macro and micro. But
they say it's just, you just talking, when you say macro, people say, watch this. And I know you've been through it. They'll say, I believe in microevolution, but I don't believe in the macro. You be like, wait a minute, there's no difference. It's just a scale, yo. Yeah. So if you're into microevolution, then you're agreeing to macro.
Exactly.
It's scale.
And a true biologist that does that, that's their thing. They're going to tell you it ain't no macro and micro. It's all evolution.
It's all evolution, yeah.
So I don't get off track, but I'll wait for Marjorie to bring the next one. But it's just an interesting conversation. So I hope
it ain't off track.
Yeah, sorry, any side steps there, Marjorie. We can talk all night.
Let me make this last point, though. Let me make this last point, Marjorie. Last point. Evolution does not occur in the organism. It occurs in the population. So you will never see a duck turn into an alligator. You will never see that. You never see a human, a monkey turn into a human, because it doesn't. That's not evolution. It's the population over time. The 100%. Population. Over time, the blue eyes will spread through the population over time. Not a person standing there with black eyes, then they pop up the next day with blue eyes. No.
100%.
So we asked this question to Michael Miller already, but I think you kind of touched on it quite a bit. Where did religion come from? Did we ask you that already?
Oh yeah, shoot. Evolution. I mean, religion is central. Is simply expression of a culture. So it's always been part of the human thing to make up things, to explain their world, right? This is before science was actually at the forefront. Before technology, early humans, of religion. If you look at it, it's just different things. Some religions have God. Some religions have rituals. It's really no consensus on what a religion is. How about that?
Right.
There's no scholarly consensus. Yeah.
Do you have any comments on that?
No, I mean, I understand what he's saying. I can't disagree with what he is. I'll leave it at that. Yeah, we're good.
Okay, so the Bible is religious evidence. Where did it come from?
People in the Middle East, but not before they learn how to read and write. And they learn how to read and write. So why didn't God have a language that didn't require the Egyptians to write? Wait. Paper comes from Egypt. It's called a papyrus.
What do you mean by religious evidence? I'm sorry.
The Bible. She said the Bible. Where it come from?
Yeah, the Bible is, religious people use that as their evidence. They have faith in the Bible and believe what it says. So as far as a believer in the Bible goes, it's evidence. Okay,
I get into conversations with people about evidence, right? So I'm gonna make this like really, just so we're on what I seek, and I hope this makes sense, is I seek evidence that actually shows that a God exists. Versus, yes, the Bible is in a generic sense evidence because it's a document, right? But that doesn't mean that this is evidence for a God actually existing. People who, never killed a person, but they're on trial and there's evidence presented against them, there's no way that that could be evidence that I actually killed them because I didn't do it, right? It's still evidence, however. And so I get into this kind of, well, there is evidence for God. What is the, you have evidence, but is this evidence that a God actually exists? And that requires to connect the dots through reasoning and XYZ. And so it's just real funny that you say religious evidence or the Bible is evidence. It's claimed evidence, but I have never seen those dots connected that on the other side of the equal sign actually shows a God. That's me though. That's me.
Well,
I got it.
If the gloves don't fit, you must have quit.
Yeah,
There you go.
know what's, let me answer that. Watch this. Now I actually believe the Bible. I actually, the Bible actually presents evidence for the Hebrews, not for nobody else. They made it up. They made that story up based off of coming in contact with other people. Nobody lives in a vacuum. And they put together a story. The story, first of all, is word of mouth. They wasn't writing it first. Word of mouth. Stories passed on. Right? The thing that made themselves slick, they just put together in one place in one book. That's what made them special. But they do the same things as all humans do. It's called human sacrifice. You can go to Nubian graves. When the king died, they sacrifice the people that work with them. The Viking sacrifice. Sacrificing is the oldest thing. The Hebrews sacrifice. Read it. Read in Exodus where Moses sacrificed a bull and fills up the basin and sprinkles the blood on the people. So everybody did that. The Christians were like, nah, but they still sacrifice. Jesus Christ is a sacrifice. Read the story. He's a sacrifice through blood. He dies for the sins of the world. It's the age-old tradition of you gotta draw blood. Some blood got to go. Blood is power, and you got to shed blood. So this is, they just modernized the daggone thing. And so when I said the Bible is real, it's only real for the Christians. The Torah is real for the Jews. The Quran is real for the Muslims, but it's not real for a person that lives in the Amazon and never even came in contact with that. That's not their reality at all. It's only our reality because they gave it to us. That was part of the enslaving process. So it's simple. It's a cultural book
of Michael Miller's concept of solipsism, right? Does that kind of play into that?
Well, solipsism essentially is that you're the only mind that exists. The problem of solipsism comes into play that you can't disprove that. You can't disprove that you're not the only mind that exists, and that's why that's a fundamental problem in the reality that is here. I move forward in reality because I presuppose that solipsism is not true, right? But that doesn't mean that, and a lot of people don't even understand the logical term. It simply means that you assert this truth as a fundamental truth so you can build on top of it. That's it. That's what a presupposition is. You don't justify it. You don't try to do anything with it. For those that are listening and may not understand that logical phrase, because I don't want to take that for granted, it's just something that you assert as true to build upon it, right? So for those that that presuppose God exists, I never even have the conversation with them.
Yeah, because there's more than one God.
They're called presuppositionalists, right? So I don't even engage with that because they don't have to justify, and so because they don't have to justify as a presupposition, there's no need to really engage because I'm seeking justification. You see what I'm saying? So that is just a little tidbit there, but that's what solipsism is, and it's a real struggle for me. It's actually a struggle for me why it's hard for me to accept a God, because if a God created this, he created my perception of reality. He could have created it any way he wanted. My reality could be totally different than what it is now. But if a God created this, he created the fundamental flaws in the way that I perceive the world. You know what I mean? Like this isn't a problem with Mike Miller because I presuppose, other minds exist. Other minds also can't prove other minds exist. It's why that famous cliche of in philosophy, I think, therefore I am. It's the one fundamental absolute truth that we can actually only prove. The rest of it is presupposed.
God is not falsifiable. You can't falsify God.
100%. Well, you can falsify some God claims that are contradictory logically, but
no, I mean God itself. I don't mean like walking on water. Of course, you can falsify walking on water because you can show that you can't walk on water. But the point I really want to make here is that once again, it's the arrogancy. Why is God the Christian God? Right? Think about that. When we speak in terms of God, even if you got a believer on here, right? And you say, well, you don't believe in God. You're not saying I don't believe in the African God. You're not saying I don't believe in the Amazon and God. You're saying I don't believe in the God Jesus Christ is this God and Jesus at the same time. That's what you're saying. That's what they're always talking about.
Yeah.
And they try to build that around atheists. Like, yo, you don't believe in God. Wait a minute, you got like 47,000 systems on planet Earth with thousands and hundreds of thousands of gods. Like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, you get that though? You see how that works though?
Yep, 100%.
It's the funniest thing ever. Man, the world is larger than the Hebrew world, yo.
What you speak to is that in our culture here in America, we're heavily influenced by this European domination of literacy and education. Yeah, I think all the time, why are we talking when you're teaching in these schools, you're teaching these names that don't correspond with African names or Asian names, or they didn't know math either, right? But we talking about so I always think our culture is very heavily, it creates the lens and the bias in which we, and it's huge. It's huge. So when it clashes, if you talk about, like you spoke on it, that African culture, the term that you use, I don't use it, but I know it, when they fight over their religion. What was that?
Tribalism? What you mean?
Yeah. You said when the violence of the crusade, that was you used the term. I don't use it, but I'm aware. I just can't remember what you said.
I thought I said they proselytize.
There you go. Right. That right there. Well, the reason why we dominated and so many cultures are dominant because that occurred, and that Hebrew lens. From that Middle East, that Bible has won out on several fronts, and it's heavily influenced the cultures around the world.
You ever watch the Vikings? Man, I love the Vikings, man. And it's just funny how when the Vikings, they wouldn't let the Vikings own land, even when they came over. Watch this. Even when they came over, the Danes, they called them the Danes, and they beat the French and all that. Which were later on become the French and the Brits and all that. And they beat them. Man, for them to own land, they had to be Christian. Ain't that funny how they did that? I mean, listen, man. They beat them in war, man. All right. They made their mark. But the Christians were like, wait a minute, you can't own land unless you're a Christian. And so they had, and you'll see some of the Vikings, they would actually be Christians. Now, a lot of them, like Ragnar Lothbrok. You know what I'm saying? He didn't really believe, but he got baptized and did all that, right? So that his sons could own land. It's funny to me. And so it's domination. Christianity was spread by domination. You know what I'm saying? It's spread through slavery. The same with Islam. That's not to say that everybody, you know what I'm saying, was forced to be a Muslim or Christian, but it's just so interesting how you forget about the other gods and goddesses that other people prescribed that lasted, that the Egyptian religion, the Nubian religion lasts for 3,000 years uninterrupted. The Christianity is only 2,000 years itself. You know what I'm saying? So it's just, it's called slavery.
You guys, you can really see what you guys are talking about if we just looked at a geographical map and we laid down the religions in the different areas. So basically, you're saying that in that certain region, it was dominated. So everyone in that region all adopted the same belief systems. And that's what you really see, especially when you're looking at the slave trade. If your slave owners were Islamic, you became Muslim. If they were, Christians, the slaves became Christians in those regions. And that's the whole reason why we have those dense populations of certain peoples believing in the same belief systems.
And I'll take it a step further to speak on what you're saying. that is about when you're alive what happens. But statistics, statistics show that when you're born in a geographical region, you are vastly more likely to adopt the religion, the dominant religion in that area. It's never and always, but you're vastly more expected to have that, and that's normally the outcome. And so what you're saying is exactly true. That map, that map is 100%. Now, when you shrink the world, as he's saying, and then you view it through that lens of that ancient, what started in that region, that speaks 100% to what he's saying about when you shrink the world in which you look through. He spoke to it several times, and it's 100% true.
Hilarious.
So those beliefs that they had, as far as some of those religions were, if they didn't go along with it, they were outcasts, or they would kill them or whatever. So right now, do you think it's better to know or to believe?
Oh man, you gotta know. At the end of the day, you gotta know when that paycheck coming. Because you gotta pay the rent. You can't believe it's coming.
Yeah.
Yeah,
oh, go ahead. I'm sorry. My bad.
It's always based off of what you know in the world we live in. Even a Christian, listen, even Christians deal with what they know. They live off of what they know. You know how to drive. You don't just dive in the car without no driving license and say, I'm gonna use my faith to get on 85 or the major highway. We don't do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't say, well, my rent, I'm gonna pray to Jesus, get my rent paid. No, you find a job. You don't say, I'm gonna have faith that ain't nobody going. If you live in a high crime area and you're allowed to have a gun in your house, you're gonna want to like to have a gun in your house. You're not gonna say, I'm gonna have faith that I don't need that God gonna protect me. No, right now Christians are wearing masks and taking vaccines. You know what I'm saying? Only the not I don't say the heretics, only the ones that's plumb crazy saying Christ's gonna protect me from the virus. But then Intelligent Christians, they're gonna say, man, we're gonna wear masks, we're gonna wash our hands, and when the vaccine comes, we're gonna get the vaccine. So for humans, for survivability, you survive longer off of what you know, not what you believe. I believe this water is good to drink, and we drink it and we all die because we believed it. Once you know, based off of some animals drinking and they died, you realize, hey, we ain't gonna do that. Johnny just ate those green berries over there and he died. Now we know not to eat them. So it's always based off what you know.
Yeah, for me, it's just about definitions. Knowledge is really just a justified true belief. Now, belief is a subset of knowledge. It's just not justified. If you could justify it, it wouldn't be a belief. It'd be it. And so that's the difference there. And that's the key. I would always rather know something than believe it. The trick is the perspective and lens. And as a philosopher myself, if any, depending on that lens that you look through, you can claim that you know this, and the other person claim they can know that, because that justification, that rationality that connects those dots could be different. It's why I hold true to logic so much, because I need that justification to be logical for me before I claim I know anything. And so when that is valid and sound, if it's deductive or if it's cogent and whatever, I'm whether I'm using abductive or inductive, whatever it is, I am honest with the language at the end. If I'm using inductive logic, I don't say that this is 100% true. I say this is likely true. Or that, if I'm using abductive, which has its own set of problems, I'm saying that this seems to be true. It's not the same as deductive, where this is true. And that little nuance, between the three is paramount for me. A lot of people don't use that level of nuance in lazy language. So I clash with a lot of people that think I'm saying one thing versus I'm saying another. And, but no, I would much rather know. And that epistemology that leads you to that justification is critical. I don't think faith is a valid epistemology. I think that, well, real quick, I think you can believe anything through faith. I don't think there's not one thing you can believe not on faith. And that tells me right there, it's not a sound epistemology. So I never try to believe something or know something through that method. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
We're in the age of space. We don't gotta believe. Like we at the point where, see, it's called the God of the gaps. So early man had to believe because they just didn't know. They actually thought the volcano had some kind of spiritual, whatever kind of power, and that the reason the mountain exploded is because we did something wrong. And so we had to appease the gods, feed the gods, sacrifice to the gods so they won't kill you. They had no scientific explanation on why volcanoes came and destroyed cities. But hold on, see, traumatic events, like we're not getting it. The terror explosion. You know how much the population that wiped out? The ash cloud went around the world. You know what I'm saying? Like, it killed a lot of people when that joint exploded, the terror explosion. So imagine you being an early Neolithic human being, and that happens. You don't know what that is. You don't understand that it's really the tectonic plates moving, which causes the pressure to build up and lets out the molten lava. You don't know that. You don't know. Like, tsunamis, what about that? When an earthquake occurs, and then it shakes the land, and then a tsunami comes and wipes out everything. You didn't know that. You thought you did something wrong. We didn't appease the gods are mad. All you know is you...
I give you a perfect example of that. The Mayans. Now, it's believed that when they held on to their beliefs about droughts and such, they didn't have the technology or the wisdom and scientifically to understand the way that they were turning those crops. I'm sorry, that it was making the soil less and less fertile.
Right.
So
yes, you're right.
Yeah, they sacrifice to the gods more and more and more. Yeah. And their whole entire civilization is gone. Now that's a simplification, but that's along the lines of why I see what you're saying. 100%.
Yeah, the drought killed them. Yeah, because they didn't realize the mines didn't disappear. They left because of water. They ain't had no water.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I'd like to chime in on that question as well. See, I think that in my opinion, atheists are always really good critical thinkers. I swear, they're some of the best critical thinkers out. That's my opinion. But I'm gonna go ahead and disagree with both of them right now. As far as is it better to believe or to know? And I'm gonna say it's better to believe, right? And then I understand both points that was posted. But the reason why I say it's better to believe is because, like Mike touched on it for a moment, basically, we really don't know. We don't know. It's just a strong belief. That's when we say we know something, it's a justified belief. So the superior understanding is to identify and acknowledge that you really don't know. So the stance of a belief is really a superior understanding, because it's going to leave you not to actually say that you'll stop looking for answers if you know, that if you believe that you know, but to acknowledge that it's really a belief that you know. So that it boils back down to a belief. So that's the perspective that I live through. We don't really know anything, because tomorrow what we know might be different from what we know today. So we only really truly believe. So to capitalize on it, the maximum that you can do is acknowledge that you have a belief or a strong belief.
Oh, okay. So here's the thing. Here's the thing, though. Here's the thing with that, though. Philosophically, though, there's a difference between a justified true belief and just a belief, right? So when you have a justification, whatever your epistemology, I don't care if you believe it through faith, right? To you, this is a justified, so you know it. The key is to explain, is to just acknowledge that you have a justification to it. This is the play on words, right? This is the nuance, the breakdown of it. When you say you believe something and you don't say that you know it, you're saying you have no justification for this, but you believe it's true anyway. So I really don't know if that's what you're saying. I think that you're saying that you prefer justified beliefs over unjustified beliefs, because those are the two categories, right? I already concede there's only one thing that we all truly can know in the sense that you're speaking to, and that's that I exist. I think, therefore I am. So we know that that's not what we talk about when we say know and believe. Right? But you're dealing with a philosopher play on words, baby. I'm just telling you.
Yeah.
That I don't
That's
think,
not how science works.
would rather believe than know. I don't think that that's true, man. I don't believe that at all.
No, we look at science. Science doesn't claim to know, though.
Exactly.
When you look at science. Yep. See, he hit us with a faulty premise in the first place. Because that's just regular people saying. So from a regular person, I'm saying you rather know the answer than not know the answer. You rather know how something works, because really belief is a stage. You first believe something until you get to the stage when you know. So if you stay stuck in belief, that's called religion. If you move from what you believe to what is factual, that's called science. Right? I believe that based off of these extinct fossils, that later on we will know that this will happen. It's a progression. Religion, there is no progression in believing and thought. Jesus Christ.
But there is a progression. It's just we can't verify it because you're dead.
So you guys are talking about faith. I mean, believing in something they're not, whatever. But when it comes to just sitting down in a chair, you believe that chair is going to hold you when you sit down. But sometimes I've seen people fall over the chair. So knowing and believing, we know this chair is going to hold us.
But what specifically? This is great. This is great you said that.
Yeah.
What specifically are you claiming when you sit in that chair?
You're claiming that you believe, you have faith in that chair that it's going to hold you. That you're going to be able to
you're claiming that it will hold you, right? That's faith.
Right. Exactly.
I don't do that. Nothing in my thing says that chair will hold me before I know that it will, right? I'm saying that it is likely to hold me based on what I know. That's inductive.
Exactly. Yes.
So that specific thing that you're claiming right there, I mean, that we're discussing, is the nuance between why I say I don't use faith, because I don't claim something I don't know, right? Is true. I don't believe that it is true, right? I don't do that. That's me though. That's a Mike Miller thing. So that chair, I'm asking you now that I've said it in that way, are you having faith that chair will hold you? I'm not judging you, but in your example, is that what you're saying?
In my example, that's exactly what I'm saying. When I sit down, I'm thinking this chair has held me before. It's probably going to hold me again. I don't have a problem sitting down in the chair thinking that I'm going to fall out of it or it's going to break. But I've seen that happen before. I've seen people sit down and just fall over in a chair.
Inductively, you're saying, I've seen this happen before. This is what happens in my brain. We're doing the same thing, right? We're saying it differently. Inductively, we've seen that this happened before. I feel that it's likely that it will happen again, so I'm going to take that chance and sit on it. Now, that's not saying that it will, but I think that, now, William, you have seen me in action with that same verbiage. Do you understand me verbally saying it and explaining it versus just reading it?
Oh yeah, you either way, the way you communicate is perfect. I totally understand you communicate.
I'm just curious because I'm trying to make sure that I reach as many people as possible when I communicate with them, because I engage all kind of people. So I was just curious the different formats.
Well, Michael Miller, when you break it down, you break it down. Thank you. On the breakdown. So my next question is, do you believe in do you believe in time or alternate reality or a unified field of energy?
What?
Those are several questions.
Yeah.
I'll address the first one. Time, to me, is perception.
Yeah.
It's simply the changing of one state to the next. When I boil it down, I can't, touched on it slightly. What is a revolution around the sun if you ain't in the solar system, right? It's not there. So the perception of a day would be totally different to a hypothetical alien 100 light years away from us versus 100,000 light years away from us versus to us. So time is just perception. But I will say, if we let go of how we view it and that perception, time is, for me, changed from one state to the next. That's it. Now, the other questions you asked were more complicated, but I'll let Unc take that time thing. And then...
Yeah, you know what it is. Time is just based off of the amount of time it takes for the Earth to go around the planet. That's it. Like when you get to Mars, the day ain't as long on Mars. I think it's a couple minutes shorter, something like that. So depending on where you at. So, but unified, energy is a measurement. People mess that up all the time. It's actually a measurement. So meaning I would have to push Mike, right? Transfer the energy from me to him through pushing him. And then you can measure how much energy I exhausted by how fast he was pushed. You could it's a measurement. It's not a people think it's a thing, the energy. No, it's actually a measurement. Y'all can look that up. You have to measure it, right? It's a measurement.
Is what you mean by that, William, help me here, is the spirit of that question more along what you hold as true or what you believe when it comes to everything? Is that what the spirit of that is? Is that where that's going?
In time?
No, not time, the unified theory, the unified energy, you know what I mean?
I never heard that before, unified theory. I ain't never heard that of energy.
Yeah, I'm asking William because he has a unique perspective on this that he acknowledges is not, it's just a hypothesis of his. But is that where that comes from? Did you write? Is that I'm trying to understand the question exactly?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. So unified field theory is just a theory that someone created, basically saying that on a microscopic level or below the microscopic level, on a certain degree, all energy is connected. Doesn't matter, the distance doesn't make it disconnected at all. Everything in the universe is woven together and connected on that level.
Well, there are certain principles in quantum mechanics that I am not fully adept in, but I will say there are things in which you have one atom or particle, whatever you want to call it, and a co-equivalent to that, and they're connected no matter the distance, is the theory in that. And if you extrapolate that to everything, could it all be connected? I'd take it to Unc's thing, right? He say this is a closed system.
Closed system.
So in that instance, is it all unified and connected? It could be. I could easily see that. I could easily see that. I don't know that, but I could easily see that. It's nothing that's out of the realm for me. A unified connection of everything, but that would be more pantheistic, just without the God. It'd just be everything as one, which goes along with solipsism as well. So I hate to bring it back.
A pantheist is really another way of saying atheist. So everything in the universe is equal to God. So they're just calling the universe God, but there is no God per se. It's just the universe.
That's the difference between pantheist and atheist, is the God part.
Yeah.
It's a different way of saying the universe, right? At least that's their view. It's a different way of saying
the universe. Yeah.
Right. But there is no being and there's no conscious energy. Everything that you will equate to a God is not there in that concept, right? It's just the universe as it is. But then they'll turn around and say, because it's the universe as it is, and it's everything in existence, then that is what they're saying God is. So there's no consciousness to God. It's just the planets, the space between, the rocks that's floating around, and the stars. That's it.
I think the Egyptians would have changed their religion, personally.
Some of those take it deeper though and say they are the planet, they are the rock, it's all one, right? everything is one, but the perspective is that we ain't, there's a blockage there.
If they add any type of consciousness to it, then they'll go from being a pantheist to a panentheist. That's the gauge right there. As soon as you say that there's something more than the physical, then you cannot be a pantheist anymore.
I'm not adding anything more than the physical. I'm saying that they're saying that it's all connected into one, but the difference is the perspective in which you perceive something through. So while if everything is one, but your perception allows you can't avoid this, right? There is no adding consciousness to it. If everything is one, the difference between me and a rock is perception, right? Now, what's added to the like that is a pantheism in a nutshell. I mean, you cannot get around that. Because you have to say to a pantheist, what's the difference between me and a rock? At the fundamental level, the only thing they truly can say is how we perceive reality. The rock doesn't have the secondary or primary attributes to perceive as I do. That's it. But I am the rock, and the rock is me. Right. Because everything is one. That's why I'm not a pantheist, because that takes it too far for me. An atheist is not a pantheist, because the atheist only addresses that one thing. God existing, right?
Yeah, now, where outside of nature.
Yeah, where I think the closed system could be, or am I a naturalist, or am I, those are different questions than just atheism versus pantheism. I just want to make that distinction for everybody, because atheism can't be the same as a pantheist, because I don't hold that belief.
They say pantheist. Yeah, they say pantheist is a soft atheist, though.
Yeah, but
a scientist,
it can't be. It can't be. I'm a soft
atheist. Because the pantheist said there's nothing outside of nature. That's the point. A scientist says there's nothing outside of nature.
Yeah, but
throw the word God in there.
That's a hard atheist, though. I don't claim there's nothing outside of nature. That's the thing, though. I don't know if there's anything outside of nature. A hard atheist says there is nothing outside of nature. You see the difference? What I'm saying?
Yeah, I see.
Yeah, so a hard atheist would be like a pantheist, potentially. But
I ain't never heard it put that. I ain't never heard it put that way. But shit, since you did,
you breaking it down on the breakdown.
Since you did, I don't know. But I'm just saying what a pantheist says. Everything is God. There's nothing outside of that. That's a pantheist.
And that would be a hard atheist.
And I just wanted to touch on that question about, do I believe in time? Me and Ankh had a 4-hour phone conversation at one point.
5.
Wow.
And no, I do not believe in time. I think time is just a social construct. Like you guys were touching on, if you're not on the planet, then time it's not really, it's relevant, like, Einstein says. But time is nothing more than, like Ankh said about energy, it's a measurement. So it's a foot. Does a foot exist? 12 inches as a foot. So we come up with these concepts, 12 inches equals a foot. And then we say, does a foot exist? Well, there's no energy that's a foot. There's no energy of a foot. It's just a concept that we're putting together to measure. And time is the same thing. There's no energy in time. Time has no energy to it. We just have measured a concept, and we're using the earth as a clock, and we're breaking that down into inches. Well, like Brother Ankh said, in space, it's about distance. It's not about time. And it's the same exact thing. Time and distance are relevant to each other. So if I'm saying inches, feet, yards, we break that down into time as in seconds, minutes, and hours. That's all it is. But time itself does not have any energy. Therefore, it does not exist.
Right. So, but if we didn't have time, we wouldn't know to show up here. At what time to show up?
I didn't say we didn't have time. I said it doesn't exist.
Right.
So
my next question, does anybody else have another comment before we move to the next question?
Yeah, just to touch on that, like I said, I'm always going to bring that philosophical lens. There's a term, presentism. And then William actually had a conversation that I was chimed in on occasionally. I think it was with a friend of ours about presentism. Really, is what it was discussing, that all we experience is the present, and we don't experience the past, and we don't experience the future. We always, whatever we are experiencing, is happening in the present,
Right.
and it speaks to um, a limitation on us, for from a God perspective. If you add that in, some gods, they say they claims are that they experience the past, present, and future, right? All in one. Well, we can't do that. And so when you talk about time changing from one state to the next, all you really are, you're presupposing that the past actually happened and that the future is going to happen. I tell people all the time, I just presuppose that. I can't prove it. And I mean, you literally can't prove that time happens. That's all I'm saying. It's all part of a problem in how we perceive things. That if we were, I forget which omni it is. Omnipresent, is that it? That if we were that, then we could actually prove time because we could see past, present, and future. But there's a problem there. It's presentism, and it's like solipsism, to an extent. You really, it's hard. People don't really think about that, but go ahead and prove that the future is going to happen. Even when it does, it's still your present. But anyway, go ahead.
Well, it's happening right now because we're going to get done with this in the future. But the question I have right now is there anything that connects everything in the universe together? Is there anything that connects everything?
Yeah, the natural elements. Yeah, no matter they in the lab they can tell what color elements give off colors, and so they can look in other galaxies and see those same colors and know that those elements are there. Okay, the suns produce elements. They're literally element making machines, and everything has rocks. Everything has elements in it. Atoms, protons, neutrons. So that's the connection. That it's all made of the same thing. Everything is made of the same thing. That's the connection. It's just a variation of the same thing.
Mike, what is your opinion, your thoughts on
that? I mean, the theory of that is, I do subscribe to that, but in reality, the only thing that really connects everything is me, my existence. Mm-hmm. And I don't mean that as an arrogant. If somebody hear that, if you ain't been following along, I've been very consistent with it. My existence is the only thing that connects everything to me. So when that ceases, if it ever ceases, who knows what happens. But then if I take it to where Ankh went more scientific, those theories, yeah. I mean, those things are there as well. But yeah.
Okay. What do you base your morality on, Michael?
Morality to me is subjective. I choose the measuring stick of harm and well-being. That's me. That's my lens. That's it. But I've seen throughout, from a historical perspective, morality varies in whatever their measuring stick may be. It is something to be said. Unk's talking about this psychological evolution. We are a social species. And so it's proven that the reason that we're a social species today is because those that were social previously, they lasted longer, and that's why we are social. And I just can't. If any other foundation there was besides well-being or harm, those two measuring sticks were more prevalent, then they didn't make it, or they did. Those that, if I said to myself, I want a society in which everyone thinks it's moral to kill their neighbor, no one will be here. So that's just why that's my measuring sticks. It makes sense. I've seen it historically. Evolution, proves that. And so that's what I believe moral is, and that's my measure.
Okay. Brother Ankh?
Yeah, you hear me?
Okay.
You hear me?
Okay.
Yeah, morality ain't got nothing to do with religion at all. That's the funny part about it. Religious people think that religion gives you morality. It's not the truth. Morality is cultural. So if you're in the Middle East, it's moral to have more than one wife. But in the United States, they will lock you up and call you a bigamist. In the United States, it's moral to have a husband. Two men can be married. It's moral. Two women can be married. It's moral. But if you go to certain parts of Africa and Middle East, they'll chop your head off. It's an immoral act. So morality is formed and shaped by cultures, not by religion. Human beings decide morality. So there you have it. Not religion and not God. God is
Okay,
a man-made idea.
But what do you base your individual, what do you base your morality on?
The way I was raised, my upbringing.
And
Yeah.
any more?
Your culture, essentially, right?
Yeah, the way, yeah.
Goes back to culture again, right?
Yeah, somebody robbed me, I'm gonna take it back.
So
That's how I was raised. That ain't the tough guy that's just saying you can't take it. I ain't gonna let you take nothing from me. That's the code. You can't take nothing from me. I'm not gonna let you take it. Nope.
So if everyone adopted the atheist thinking, would society be better off?
Nah. You need the mix. Remember, that's what evolution teaches us, that variety saves the day. Yeah. But having too much, like if you watch this, if you use religion in places where science is needed, you're gonna get defeated. That's what happened to the Africans. They had gotten away from scientific invention. They were stuck. They end up getting stuck in time. They wasn't, they was off into their own little corner. They were stuck. And so they didn't grow in science and technology. They stopped growing. Where ritual and religion was more prevalent. So when religion and ritual is more prevalent, you're gonna end up in the Stone Age. Simple as that. So you need a healthy mix and a healthy balance. So that's why in the United States, they talk God and God we trust, but it's in the gun they trust for real. Remember, they separated church from state. Yep, important. We hadn't, in Africa, they hadn't quite reached that pinnacle yet. Even the Egyptians who were advanced in chemistry and science, right? They used let me give you a good example. The medical papyri. Okay. In a medical papyri, they had cures. For the first time in the history of humanity, they actually had organized cognitive thinking cures. No spells involved. But then you turn the page, then they got spells. So at that point, they was able to separate a method of reaching conclusions without spells, but they still hadn't broken away from it, and they put spells on the other page. No more different than if you had a doctor wrote out a prescription for you, and then at the bottom will put John 13:12 or something like that. So what the Europeans did, they actually separated it. They got away. They say religion is over here and science is over here, and we're not gonna never mix it. And that's what ended up making them great, was the fact that they separated. The Egyptians thought it was renowned to do what the people did that was before you. The older is better. They were stuck on that. The older is better. And we know now the older ain't got to necessarily be better.
Okay. Well, that's the last question I have.
Well, for me to address that, repeat the question. I'm sorry.
Okay. Let me go back to that question.
I think it was, if everyone was an atheist, would the world be better, or something along those lines?
Right. Would society be better off?
I take this back to I believe it was William that called me a Vulcan from Star Trek, a very logical thinking person. what atheism is just a like I said, it just simply just addresses the God claim. I think people associate too much with atheism versus than they should. But what I feel that the society would be better off from taking the approach that I and many others do. Yes, 100%. I wish that logic was taught in elementary, junior high, high school, college. I think that we all could be better rational thinkers and commit less fallacies and put away with some of the superstitious things that we see around the world that are in contradiction of other superstitious things. So we know that they all can't be right.
Right.
Does that mean that means no religion? No, it does not, because you could work through all that logic and end up with a God. I haven't done it yet, but the reason why I'm open is because I think that I don't know if it's not possible to do so. So a mixture of religion and atheism, whatever. All I care about is what's true in the end. Whatever that is, that's I think society would be better off with that. If that ends up being a God, so be it. It just needs to make sense, and it just needs to be done through what I find is the most reliable tool that I have in my workshop, and that's logic. If it isn't through that methodology, if it's through some unsound methodology, then I can't subscribe to it. And that's what I think society would be better off to. That could end in religion or atheism. I don't know.
So basically, you're just saying as long as everyone is using critical thinking, then that's going to push society forward.
100%.
So I agree. Oh, go ahead.
100%. When this is the European lens, because when the Europeans were in dark ages, it doesn't mean the rest of the world was. This speaks to that geographical bubble that Ankh talks about. But during the dark ages, humanity didn't progress much in that sphere of the world, because what took place during that was a lot of dogma, a lot of superstition, a lot of practices that suppressed critical thinking and scientific practices and evolution and things of that nature in the way you think. Anytime it's too much that direction, I see that kind of result. I have yet to see a society that critically thinks too much.
I think, what do you think about people kind of move in herds? You know, they hear this and everybody goes to that area, whatever it is. They start believing that. Then they hear something else, they go over there. I mean, people kind of travel in herds like that. And you think that's probably because they don't do like you do. They don't think about it. People don't know how to think.
100%. 100%. That's it's shown throughout history. You have people who practice racism. They never thought about racism in depth a day in their life, but that's how they were raised. That's what they were taught. And you see people who expand their mind, who explore new thoughts and ways of thinking, and they come out of racism. For just an example, and the same goes for any religion or any scientific principle. The same way, a lot of scientists will get stuck in a way of thinking, and they'll be closed-minded to certain new ideas or new things. Einstein's thing wasn't accepted right away. A lot of people held on to Newtonian physics for a long time, and then people gravitate toward more and more, and then it becomes accepted. Well, a lot of people still think the Big Bang is true. Well, that's based on Einstein's deal, right? His science, his physics. But we have quantum physics that's unsolved right now. So that's why I reserve judgment on the Big Bang. A lot of evidence points that direction. But when things get really, really small, I critically think and say, I don't know if there was a beginning. Because we don't quite understand when things get as small as that Big Bang model says. Some people say that's me saying there is no beginning. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I can't verify it through this because I don't have the tools to do it, right? So people that don't critically think will believe anything.
Wait. Hold on, wait. Let me say this. The Big Bang Theory is a theory, and it explains how the cosmos came into being.
Yep.
And so until they get a competing theory, then that's what it is right now. So they're not saying that's it.
Yeah.
Right? And we know it's not unified. You don't have they got biology is unified though.
Yep. Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
they already know about they got the pieces together, but they missing like, I forget, is it like a couple million, 100 million years or something that they missing? They don't got it yet. They can't figure it out. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. I do.
my
I do.
brothers, we talk about this all the time. Forget my man Concrete Corey. Shout out to Concrete Corey and the Pseudo Killers. That's a group of free thinkers, right? We address all these issues, and he deals with physics. That's he do, and he tell you that what they call it, astrobiology, right? They're trying to unify biology with that, you know what I mean, physics and all that. But they got the biology down pat, so they got that. So when you try to fight it, you done. But when it comes to, you know, physics and stuff like that, they missing some points. They working on it though.
Yeah, they working on it, and it's stuff done every day. And I just try to tell people, when you try, I put it like this, just so I'm understood clearly. I'm not going to go on no long tangent. When we had Newtonian physics, and that was dominant, the reason Einstein had to come up with his part was because Newtonian physics failed with things that were very big.
Yeah.
It worked here on Earth. Newtonian physics we could use right now on this planet. We'd be pretty good. We wouldn't even be a problem.
Mm-hmm.
So then what happened is the Big Bang model was really incorporated Einstein's relativity, okay? But then the Big Bang addresses quantum mechanics in its theory, but we don't have that solved. So when I say, when you apply general relativity to the quantum world in that theorem, that Big Bang theory, you get misinformation. That's all I'm trying to say. It'd be the same as if we use Newtonian physics to measure 1,000 light years from now. It'd be too much. I mean, from here, it would be too flawed because it's not meant for that. And so where I withhold judgment, I'm very consistent in my life. If I don't have the right tools, I can't assess it.
Yeah, but we can't. But it's a theory, though.
Of course. That's why I don't accept it. What I'm saying is that model, it looks great to me. It has the most supporting evidence for it, but it still doesn't mean it's true. And I'm not holding it as true. I think that it's a very promising theory, and I look forward to more work on it. That's all I'm ever saying.
Okay, true. Wait, so a theory is a coming together of organizing of the facts.
Mm-hmm.
So until that theory can be overthrown, you have to find something that organizes and explains everything that the Big Bang explains and then adds to it. That's how you overthrow a theory. So a theory can be overthrown.
I'm not trying to overthrow it though, right? I'm trying to.
You think it's you keep it the possibility, but the fact is, the theory is the possibility. That's the point I'm trying to make.
Of course, and that's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I think we're saying the same thing, but
we're saying the same thing.
When I say it, somehow people be like, "I'm not saying this at the beginning." I'm not saying that. I don't know, because the theory itself says there is, but it doesn't say beginning in the way of time that we think it. It just starts.
It ain't. And then the word choice is horrible. Big Bang is not that.
Terrible. I wish it wasn't called that.
Yeah, scientists don't even like to use that. Like, that's not even what it is, though.
100%. 100%.
Yeah, it ain't that. Ain't no,
but I appreciate the back and forth. So you gain clarity in what I'm saying. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, got you. You had to come by. You had to stop by the show, man. Like, man.
For sure.
You know, well, you brought up Einstein a couple of times, and the thing that rings in my mind is what he said about society. He said there's a lot of, I'm not quoting him, but I'm just putting it in my own words. The way things are in the world today, there's a lot of bad things going on, but that's not the problem. The problem is that people sit around and they see what's happening and they do nothing. So that's the big problem. But I want to thank you all for being here. I've gone through all my questions. And we can set another date so that we can go on with further discussions if that's something you'd like to do. But I want to I really enjoyed your answers and hearing your thoughts, and it was very enlightening. So, you know, I'm Marjorie MJ Janvier, and this is The Breakdown. So come join us again on another day.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right,
Hey,
everybody. Good night.
yeah. Good night, y'all. Hey, when we put it together, get some of the guys that have similar thought processes, so we can I think these forums is good for folks who